Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome back in to Learning the Ropes. I'm XLJ, the OG, joined by are you eating? And why do you have sunglasses on? Is that even you, B-roll? Is that Rikishi? Is that Jay and Jimmy's dad? Oos, what you doing, Oos?
What time is it?
We're live, pal. We're on the air. Oos.
Oh my goodness! How
I
rude!
didn't know we had Rikishi join us here tonight. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. It's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Well, my friend, it's another week here on Cole TV. We got another live episode of Learning the Ropes, and we're on the road to Wrestlemania. That's right. And tonight is going to be an amazing topic because we are going to be talking about WrestleMania moments. The moments that define WrestleMania, make it what it is. And I know you're still the pro wrestling newbie, but you are very familiar. And you've already seen some great moments. You've been #blessed to see some amazing moments here. I remember when you were over at my house and sitting on your couch watching your first WrestleMania with me, and we got to see Cody come out as a surprise for Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about so many of those moments tonight. So much more.
True story. We saw Cody's return to the WWE. We saw Cody not finish the story and how angry we were.
I want to see him finish the story this year, damn it. Yes, I'm a Cody crybaby. I said it. But anyways, nonetheless.
Yes, and I still don't know where I'm supposed to put the nuggets, but that's neither here nor there.
My dogs know where to put the nuggets in their mouth because Reggie and Cash love them to nuggets. And by the way, you may hear them periodically in the studio I'm in. It is hot as hell here because the Midwest has lovely weather this time of year. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But we've got an incredible show lined up for you tonight. But as always here on Learning the Ropes, you know, we got to start off with a little plug-a-palooza. And of course,
I got noodles.
And you got noodles. What are you eating, by the way? Is that like homemade noodles? What are you eating there, bro? I got to know. Inquiring minds want to know, what is B-roll eating?
Pastaroni.
And this is not the way I expected this episode to start. But anyways, nonetheless.
It never disappoints. Like, it's only
you never disappoint. You're beautiful, my friend. Well, if you haven't checked out some of our shows that's already come out this week on Cole TV, you can catch a replay of Pro Wrestling 60 as well as the Season 3 premiere of I'm Your Huckleberry. Do you even remember that episode? Because you got a little tipsy. Like, what?
I remember going
Reggie
to your
remembers.
house.
You remember going to my house. That's about it. Yeah, well, in case you don't know, we are trying hard Mountain Dew in that episode. You can catch a replay of that. And hey, we have some merch over on Pro Wrestling Tees. It's some pretty sweet merch. But if you don't believe me, well, just check this out. There you go. So head on over to Pro Wrestling Tees, search Cole TV, and you can find all of your awesome Cole TV merch, your shirts. You've got PW60 shirt, as well as we're working on some other things coming there, so stay tuned for that. And man, oh man, B-roll, we got a pretty big month coming up ahead as we are on the road to WrestleMania, of course, but before that, we're making a huge pit stop in Indianapolis, as we are going to be at Squared Circle Expo 4. It is arguably the best wrestling convention, not only in the Midwest, but as far as I'm concerned, in the entire world. And we have got several guests lined up that are going to be at our tables, as well as our good friends Ruby Ringside is going to be there, so you can meet her. But you'll be able to meet such wrestling stars as Cole Radrick, Allie, and Effie. Boosie's going to be in the house with us. It's going to be an amazing time, but that's not all. Got a little sneak peek for you of actually the next episode of Learning the Ropes. Check this out. That's right. Learning the Ropes is going to be live from the Squared Circles Expo in Indianapolis, noon Eastern on Saturday, March the 30th. It's going to be a very special episode. We've got all sorts of guests and surprises lined up. We're going to be doing interviews with Cole Radrick, Effie, and Allie, and a bunch of other surprises. We're going to take you around the expo and check it out, and so much more. You're going to want to tune in for the next Learning the Ropes, which once again will be live March the 30th at noon Eastern here on Cole TV. Yeah, I cannot wait. Can you wait, Mr. B-Roll? Are you excited? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Are you like The Rock? You got them goosebumps? Look at them goosebumps.
Oh, I can feel the energy. Squared Circle Expo. It is always one of the absolute best times of the year.
It really is.
So exciting. It's going to be a great weekend. Great weekend full of wrestling and full of good company, good friends.
Oh,
and us, probably some good food in there as well. So it's going to be
an amazing time. And you all have to come see us if you're in the Indianapolis area. And man, oh man, like I say, it is going to be a crazy time for us because right after that, it's WrestleMania week. And I get the privilege I will be in Philadelphia. We're going to have a ton of content coming to you from WrestleMania week. You're going to want to tune here these next couple weeks of Cole TV. It's going to be pretty spectacular. That being said, we got a lot to talk about here tonight. I think we've done plugged enough. We've got an amazing panel of guests that's joined us here tonight. I think it's time we bring them in. Don't you think, Mr. B-Roll?
I think so, indeed. Yeah.
Oh, you're getting serious. You're going to get a little serious, a little serial. Well, that being said, first up, let's bring him in. Our good friend. You love him. He is the Wrestle Talk Drip God himself, one Hambone. How you doing, brother?
What is up, all you fucking marks?
Well, hold on. If anybody was gonna rate my drip, it should be the Wrestle Talk Drip God.
This is true.
So,
be honest.
You're cute.
Ah, you are cute, brother.
Bless his soul.
I'll take it.
You'll take it. And also join us tonight. It's been a while. We were talking about this before we went on. It's been a minute since he's been on the show with us, but he is here with us tonight. Let's bring on Tyler Wrestles. How are you doing, my friend?
What is up, everybody? I'm doing great. You guys, how are you guys doing?
We're doing amazing. We're so excited to have y'all on with us. Also excited we're on the road to WrestleMania, and we're talking WrestleMania and great WrestleMania moments. This is going to be such an awesome episode. But as great as this field is, we are super duper excited to bring on our final guest with us because this is the first time she will be appearing on Cole TV. Let's welcome her in. Let's give her a nice welcome. Let's bring in Chrissy Tina.
Hi, babies.
Hi.
Hey.
How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing amazing. We are so excited to have you on, and it's so excited to be talking WrestleMania moments.
I'm super excited. Thank you guys so much for the invite. And B-Roll, I think you look amazing.
Well, thank you. I may not be the Wrestle Talk Drip God, but it never hurts to try.
You can aspire, my friend.
Yes. You inspire us. You inspire us all, good sir.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I'm just saying. And might I say that as cool as my Cole TV shirt, which you can get on ProWrestlingTees.com right now, is that Speedball Mike Bailey shirt's pretty dope, by the way. I love that shirt. I love the backstory of how you got it and stole it.
I was about to say, especially because it was the last one and he stole it from a friend.
Yes.
Yep. Shout out to my good close personal friend, DCDC, who I am happy to say that the last show that we went to together, I did not steal a shirt from. So
giddy up.
Hey.
Well, like I say, we've got a lot to get into. We're talking WrestleMania moments, and it's been a long time, B-Roll, since we've done this tradition. As a matter of fact, this was all the way back to Colecast. Tonight we are doing our Baker's Dozens because, damn it, a top 10 list is not good enough. No. We go top 13, baby. And that's what we're doing. We're doing our top 13 WrestleMania moments. And before we get deep into that, I want to ask you all, in your mind, what truly makes a great WrestleMania moment? Hambone, I'll start with you, my friend.
Oh, that's a difficult one.
It is a toughie.
Especially at this point, we're 40 years in. There's a million great matches and all that stuff. But for me, it's not always about the match. You know, it's for me, a great WrestleMania moment is the thing that I'm going to walk away remembering whether the match was good or not. And I think that there's going to be a couple on my list that probably fall into that category. But yeah, I mean, it's usually something that shocks you, or usually the outcome that you were hoping for. Things like that are what make WrestleMania moments.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's all about like replay value. You know, I don't know about you all, but like I know after every WrestleMania, I usually go back a day or two later and I just watch like those moments. Like I can't tell you how many times last year I watched Dominic Mysterio's entrance because that was like my favorite from last year, I think. Tyler, I want to ask you, what do you think truly makes a WrestleMania moment?
Well, I kind of like Hambone said. I mean, I feel like it's the moment. It's the thing that sticks in your head and you replay in your head, or obviously we see over and over and over again. Like he said, it's not necessarily the match. It's maybe something after the match, during the match, before the match that really makes you remember it and want to continue to see it over and over again every year in the video package, hyping you up for WrestleMania.
Yeah, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Chrissy, well, what about you? What do you think truly makes a great WrestleMania moment?
So for me personally, it goes to the emotion behind it all, like the feeling behind it all. And it's very similar to like your favorite movie or your favorite song. If it grips you and it gives you that like choked up in the throat feeling, that's when you know that it'll kind of stick with you forever. Because let's face it, like we're all nostalgia nerds here. That's a lot of what wrestling is. And some of these moments are from 5, 10, 15 years ago, but they resonate with you so immensely that they just kind of stick with you forever. So I think that a WrestleMania moment is really based in the emotionality behind it and whether or not it can grip you and stay with you forever.
Yeah, I'll back that up. And basically, that is what it is. It's about the emotional connection to whatever that moment is, whether it's good, bad, shock, whatever it is. That's what makes a WrestleMania moment.
You all could not say it any better. I mean, it's that it lives rent free in your head. Like it comes across your mind, whether it's WrestleMania time or whether it's like the middle of summer or winter, or whatever. Like you just go back and you think about those moments. And man, oh man, we've had so many moments throughout the years. I mean, we're talking pretty much 40 years worth of incredible moments. I know this is going to be a difficult task to just narrow it down to 13, but by golly, we are going to try to do it here tonight on Learning the Ropes. So, Chrissy?
But if I may, hold on.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
If you, the fan, is wondering, how do I relive some of these WrestleMania moments? Well, go ahead and pick up a copy of WWE 2K24 today.
Wow.
Yes. God,
We are in no way sponsored.
Wait. I was going to say, are you giving free promotions right now?
Use this code, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, 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 to get. We just want to get paid. No.
Call me.
You shoot your shot, B-roll. You shoot your shot. You don't know who's watching.
That's right. Papa H is always.
Papa H is
well,
watching. He's always watching.
Big Daddy H is always watching.
We know Papa H is watching. We know Papa Khan is watching.
Yes.
Because, I mean, they listen to our ideas and or they completely ignore our ideas. So it is what it is.
It's like my parents. It's either I get all the attention or none of it.
I love it. Well, that's a good point. Yes. And yes, you can get your copy of WWE 2K24 out now in all stores.
But
with that being said,
in all seriousness, the showcase mode for WrestleMania moments is just
it is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Like I haven't played it a whole lot, and B-roll, you know me. Like let me show you how old I am. This is the first game I've pre-ordered. This is the honest to God's truth. First game I've pre-ordered since WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. Swear to God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I remember it like yesterday. I went into KB Toys. I took my paycheck that I have from my part-time job, and I pre-ordered No Mercy. But anyway.
Speaking of nostalgia kids, KB Toys.
Yeah.
KB Toys. God, I miss
Baby,
it.
you're showing your age. You're showing your age.
I am.
Does the heart good? I've got some toys that still have the KB toy sticker on them. So
Oh, that's the best feeling in the world. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about some amazing feelings here from WrestleMania. So, Chrissy, I'm going to start with you. What is your 13th greatest WrestleMania moment, or your most enjoyable or favorite WrestleMania moment?
So these are my personals. So to those of y'all that are like the wrestling fan elites, I do everything based in nostalgia and emotion. I'm very much a rose-colored glasses kind of girl. So these are just things that resonated with me the most personally. At kind of in no particular order, but at number 13.
Well, what we'll do, I don't mean to cut you off. What we'll do is we'll just go like moment, like we'll just go each, we'll give our 13 or 12, and we'll kind of go like that. So
Sounds good.
yeah. So you go ahead with your 13th one.
So my 13 was AJ Lee's win at WrestleMania 30. I believe it was the one where it was the gauntlet match.
Yeah.
Vicky Guerrero was holding the title against her, and it was just her maintaining the title that year. I know it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, but I've been a huge AJ Lee mark since her NXT days where she was getting like big brothered by Primo. That was a very, very particular point in time where they had her kissing just everybody on the roster for some strange reason. Not that I would personally complain, but neither here nor there. But it was just one of the moments that kind of showed that she can turn chicken salad out of chicken shit. She was given so many just random bits and pieces to work with, and she was able to form a whole picture out of broken puzzle pieces throughout her kind of entire career. And that's just one of the major moments that she had. She is probably one of the most unsung women's wrestlers, and she is incredibly popular. But I do feel like she's even still underrated for what she could have done. Is it unfortunate now that she's injured and probably won't come back to the ring in the capacity that she was beforehand? Absolutely. But we can still look back and appreciate those moments now in hindsight, knowing that she wouldn't be with us career-wise for that long. And just seeing the work that she did, I love the fact that her finisher is a tap, and her whole thing behind it is just, I like knowing that I can get someone to submit under me instead of a pin. That was her whole science behind it, and I've always loved her, and that was just one of my major moments where I popped for her.
Yeah, that was really like the definitive kind of WrestleMania win for AJ, I would say. As a matter of fact, no, she did wrestle the year later. I was going to say that was like her only real WrestleMania match, wasn't it? But I think she at least the 30 and 31s where she...
Yeah, I believe 31 was Paige and her
Paige against the Bellows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that gauntlet match too, and like it just kind of felt like they're just throwing it together to put it on the card and stuff. Like, but it's like you say, and the thing is, she was in the midst of like one of the best, if not the best, like runs as at the time the Divas champion. I mean, and the fact that she pretty much leading up to that, she pretty much, if I remember correctly, was that around the time frame where she cut that famous like kind of her pipe bomb promo?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, there you go, just literally running down the roster, and she like puts it and backs it up in the ring and just goes through everybody. I also remember too in that matchup, there was kind of like, because Tamina was her heavy at the time, and there was kind of like a tease of that. So, and they had the unenviable task of following the freaking one of the most insane WrestleMania moments, which I'm sure a lot of us are going to be talking about here tonight after the streak ended. They had to follow that. It's like, what the fuck? But nonetheless, still kudos to her. But I love that. I think that's a great moment. Tyler, what about you, my friend? What would be your 13th moment?
First off, I'm going to say this was actually incredibly hard to narrow it down to 13.
Yes.
I was making a list, and I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of this, but I put this in there. It's a little controversial. Well, it is very controversial, but I have to have it in there. It's when WrestleMania 20, Chris Benoit wins the title against HBK and Triple H. And being a WCW guy growing up, it was huge for me. And then having Eddie come out, I was bawling like a little baby because, like I said, those are my guys back then. And then, unfortunately, obviously, the events after that followed kind of erased that from WrestleMania history, but it was one of the moments that I still remember Eddie coming out, and I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do it.
Oh my god, the
But
tears and stuff, man. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
elaborate a little more on that because that's on my list. But yeah, dude, that. Oh, see, Reggie's even all about it. But yeah, for me, that's an incredible moment. Gosh, it's what the saddest thing about that is that we can't that's not like that moment should have been like in highlights packages still to this day that we talk about. And because of the tragic what happened with Benoit, we don't get that moment. Because I mean, that was like not only but it was Eddie's moment too.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. All right, Hambone. Let's start off your list, my friend. What is your 13th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time?
So I agree with Tyler. This was not an easy thing to do. I had 27 moments on my phone that I had to narrow down to 13 this afternoon. So this one, it's a recent one. Might not be on a lot of people's, but Cody's return at 39 is number 13 for me. I have been a big fan of Cody since the whole dashing gimmick. I've watched him his whole career. I've met him several times. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met in the business. When he came back to WWE, I was a little annoyed, after everything they said, working for AEW and things like that. I kind of felt like he was making the wrong decision, and him coming out at WrestleMania 39 and everything that's happened since, he's definitely proven that was the correct decision for him. And, you see a lot of the stuff on the internet about Cody, about the stuff that he does with the fans at shows and things like that. And I'm sure that a lot of people believe that is just PR or something like that. And I've said it before. I witnessed a moment at an indie show that Cody was at where he did something extremely selfless that nobody other than the people in the room that night know about. And it's not a PR thing. He's just a genuinely good person. And in a business that is not full of a lot of genuinely good people, seeing his return and his success since makes me proud that I'm a fan of his and extremely happy for him. So that's number 13 for me.
And the fact that we may get the greatest WrestleMania of all time, Hambone, when we're there in person and get to finish the fucking story. I'm sorry, I had to say that.
Let's hope, because we could be in store for a
Hambone. If it doesn't happen, we're gonna burn that motherfucker down. If it does not happen,
I think if it doesn't happen again, Philadelphia is the wrong city to do
in
this.
true Philadelphia style, whether or not you win or lose, the city's still gonna burn anyway.
Yeah.
Here's what I want you two to do. If for whatever reason it doesn't happen, just find each other and just hold each other.
Oh, we're gonna hold.
You don't have to. You don't have
to
worry about burning the city down.
We're gonna be hugging
They'll
anyway.
take care of that.
Way before the show starts. So.
Oh yeah, bro. Well, for me, I'm like you. This was hard to do. I know it was a hard task to ask everybody to do this. I'm like you. I had like a notepad full of them. I think I had about like 30 something. But starting off on my list at number 13, I'm gonna go with a moment. Now, this would probably be in like a historian's, like easily in the top 5 for sure. But it's like I had to include it because this is such a historical moment, and I still think about it. If somebody asked me, yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
So the way you're setting this up, you're telling me it
go ahead and
Shawn
say
Michaels. It includes Shawn Michaels.
No, God, no. No, I'm
no.
not. I'm not. I mean, I'm a brat guy, but I got Shawn on my list. Trust me, I've got Shawn on my list.
You goddamn better.
But let me preface it with this way, and you'll understand where I'm going with this. Fuck you, Terry.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's the other one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I say, it's just such an iconic moment. You see it played every year over and over again. And I'm talking about WrestleMania 3, the stare down between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Because it's really the first true definitive WrestleMania moment when you think about it. Like, just I remember it as a kid. At the Silverdome, it's at night, it's black. All you see is like just flashes of photography. That stoic look on Andre the Giant's face. Hogan just shaking, just like, oh, I could do this. And just the way that match began, too. It's just like, say what you will about Hulk Hogan, but and I'm a huge mark for Andre the Giant. I mean, Andre, I was mesmerized by him as a kid, even though he's a bad guy for when I was growing up. But still, so I feel like I had to have that on my list. So that's my 13th moment was Hogan Andre the stare down. So, well, we're already starting off here with a bang. Chrissy, I'm going to come back to you. Let's get your 12th moment.
So my 12th moment would be, this was a little hard to kind of condense, but the Wendy Richter, Cyndi Lauper spot at WrestleMania 1, just that entire like story arc leading up to that, because it showed back when not a lot of people thought that WrestleMania would work, that if you had enough star power behind it, it just might. And Cyndi Lauper being one of the biggest performers during that decade at the time, backing up the WWF and showing up and doing the character work that she did and doing all the amazing spots that she did, go all the way down to having wrestlers in her music videos for like a decent amount of time. And just that spot of Lauper and Richter doing like the whirl around, like skipping around the ring with each other, is always in my head because it reminds me, in a world where the women make up 17% of the television in wrestling in WWE alone, and most of it isn't that good, not to the women's fault, realizing that a woman could carry all of the attention, all the major media presence, all of the big things that come with the grandest stage of them all, that it could be partly shouldered on a woman superstar and have it work. Now, everything that went down between Richter and Moolah is highly unfortunate, but Moolah also did incredible work during that stint. And just knowing that one of the biggest moments of the very first WrestleMania ever is women's based is why that's in my top 13.
Mad respect, because I mean, I think that's such a cool statistic that a lot of wrestling fans forget about, is the fact that the semi-main event of the very first WrestleMania was in fact a women's championship match, which is really cool when you think about it. And it's like you say too, just the Cyndi Lauper, like, you know, they have these celebrities that go in the Hall of Fame, and I'm like, okay, why are they in there? But I also scratched my head like, why the hell is Cyndi Lauper not in the Hall of Fame? She did so much for the WWE in the 80s, man.
But Drew Carey's there.
But Drew Carey's there because he was fucking promoting a comedy show at the 2001 Royal Rumble. What the hell? Or Kid Rock. Like, don't even get me started on that.
Yeah, he slightly sexually harassed Trish Stratus, but everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Just flat out like, why?
Can I say it?
Yeah, of course.
Can I say it? Wendy Richter? I'm going to fuck you up.
I knew that was coming. But and the match itself was cool. And another thing too, we were forgetting about here, like, hell, the champion was Levani Kai going into that matchup too. And I mean, she had a hell of a run there as kind of a Moolah's predecessor, so to speak, too. And I mean, I can remember from watching tapes back in the day as a kid, the whole that Moolah Richter storyline and the Spider Lady and like all that stuff. But yeah, that is a tremendous moment. And like, I think a lot of people, and I'll be honest to myself, I really forgot about, like, that makes a lot of sense to have that on a list. So I'm glad that got mentioned here tonight. Tyler, coming to you, buddy. What's your 12th WrestleMania moment of all time?
So I'm going to stick with something controversial based on recent events. This kind of transcends all the WrestleManias. It's Vince coming out and saying, "Welcome to WrestleMania." I mean, that is just every time you got to hear it, I think, in my head. It's going to be weird because I'll be curious to see if they do it at all with anybody this year. But someone always comes out and says it, and it kind of just, I don't know, get you pumped for WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, it's the one thing, like his voice is so iconic with WrestleMania. I also wonder this too, like, because what wasn't it like always Vince that was like, no, not the national anthem. It has to be like America the Beautiful. Like, I wonder, are they gonna switch that up this year? I wonder, or keep that tradition going. Oh. But yeah, you're right. I
They-
mean,
they could just not do it because doing that stuff at a sports event is weird.
you're not wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna do something like that because they're gonna bring in some celebrities sing it, and then they're gonna have like planes fly over and do the whole spectacle. Because I mean, that's what WrestleMania is, right?
I could
So-
I
I'm
could
gonna
see
sing-
Hunter
I'm
coming
gonna
out
sing
and
it.
doing something.
I'm gonna say
Oh,
yes.
you're singing.
Oh,
Nice.
Yes.
I'd
Good.
take that over the random like third generation like country artists that they always manage to find.
Like, now performing the national anthem, Hardy. Oh fuck. Anyway, so all right, Hambone, I'm coming to you, brother. What is your 12th WrestleMania moment of all time?
So I noticed looking at my list that the bottom half of my list is all pretty recent stuff, and then I start to get into the older stuff. So number 12 for me is Kofi Mania. I'm not I'm not like a huge Kofi fan. Like I've loved New Day, especially in the early years and all that stuff, but watched Kofi from the beginning of his career, his entire WWE career, and the ups and downs. And to see that happen, it's one of the very few WrestleMania moments that actually I had tears in my eyes from it, because we all wanted it so bad for him. We all knew all the work that he had put in, what it meant to people who looked like him, for that to happen, where it happened, when it happened. It was just such a big, meaningful moment to me. So Kofi beating Daniel Bryan, that is my number 12.
Wow, nice. I think we're going to be talking a lot more about that with our list too. I know I've got that on mine. It's a little bit higher, but yeah, it's like you say, man. It's one of those moments where it's just like how could you not be cheering for the guy? I
Mhm.
mean, with the story, and he's just like one of the best workers, and to finally get that moment, it's pretty cool. So for me at number 12, maybe a little controversial that it's so low on my list, but I'm thinking, and I love this moment, but I mean, there's just some other moments that I just am more into. But for me at number 12, I got to go all the way back to WrestleMania 28 and at the end of an era. That moment with where Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker are all on the stage together, kind of looking back on that masterpiece of a match they put on at the Hell in a Cell. And just and it's kind of funny because that you talk about the hype. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. But several years later, you really realize that really was the last great performance out of those guys. I mean, Taker did have a great match with Punk the next year, but still, though, it wasn't like a show-stealing, incredible war like he had with Triple H. And I'd say the same for Triple H too. I mean, I know Triple H wrestled several more matches in years after that, but to me, that was the last truly great time that these guys who I grew up watching really got in the ring and just told this incredible story. And then, of course, with Shawn Michaels being the referee, and that whole story too, because I guarantee you're not going to find any 4 better series of matches in a back-to-back WrestleMania than the Shawn Taker and then Taker Triple H series, man. It's never going to be done again.
I mean, Sean's in them, so
there you
makes
go.
sense.
See, I'm putting your boy over. It's okay. So, well, Chrissy, I'm going to come back to you now. Give me your 11th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time.
So I know I'm a little new here, but is there some Shawn Michaels issues here?
So,
Well,
Hambone's a Shawn guy. I'm a Brett guy, but we still get along and love each other.
do.
It's
We
just,
do.
Oh,
And
Hambone, darling, you gotta hang out a lot
caught in
more.
the middle, I get caught
Mommy
in
and
the
Daddy are
middle,
fighting again?
I was just about to say
I
that, Chrissy.
Yeah,
It comes
I
up.
instigate a
It's the
lot and
one
poke the
thing,
bear.
and then B-roll feels uncomfortable. And we make him feel like he's not loved, and that's not what we mean to do.
No,
He's
not
got to
at
make
all.
sure that he gets, split custody, equal
Yes.
weekends.
And it's okay. Then we pass around the potato
It's
salad.
okay.
And the coleslaw, and
Sometimes
everything's
Mom and
good
Dad
again.
Are there
Right.
raisins in the potato salad, XLJ?
Absolutely not.
Yes.
No.
And this is why
Okay.
they have me here for the diversity hire.
No. See, listen. I was just about to say, Jay, don't bring that white people shit in here.
But
No.
Okay.
No.
So
Anyways,
Hambone brought up a very good point where for some reason all of his list is the newer stuff towards the bottom and then the older stuff towards the top. Mine's is reversed somewhat for some reason, because my number 11 is Shawn versus Razor at Mania 10 in the ladder match. Because this is, I believe, the first ever official ladder match in WWF, at least. And it just goes to show how incredible workers both Razor and Shawn were at the time, to the point where it's just kind of like undeniable. And it's very rare in any decade, in any generation in wrestling, whether it be WWE or otherwise, to have just someone who's undeniably good, where no one can really say anything negative. And Shawn has always kind of been that for me. And no matter whether he's like coked out and drunk or if he's being saved by Jesus, like he's just always been that damn good. And seeing that kind of like the slow primordial ooze of what the TLC matches would soon turn into from this ladder match with Razor and Shawn, it had to be on my list.
yeah, I mean, it's gosh, man, it's like it's such an amazing match when you think about it, as far as like just you that saying ahead of its time. I mean, that match was so ahead of its time, it's not even funny. I mean, that showed you like a path of like, okay, we can go down this way and do this in a match too. Because I mean, ladder matches had happened before in wrestling, but they were always hokey. They were always kind of like, the whole point was climb the ladder and get an object or something, right? Like this is actually using it as a weapon. So I could not agree with you more. That's an incredible moment. Incredible match. One of the greatest matches. It's easily, you could say it's in the Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania matches, which is saying something. So yeah, I totally agree. Even though I'm a Bret Hart guy, and I do think Bret versus Owen was the better match on that show. But anyways, we're moving on. I knew you're gonna say something to that, so that's all right. I love you though, nonetheless, brother. Tyler, how about your 11th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time?
Well, speaking of Brett, I have Brett versus Austin I Quit match WrestleMania 13 at my number 11 spot. Just brilliance. It was just such a good watch. And when you think of Stone Cold and his iconic crimson mask, that is the shot that, I mean, I see that sometimes in my nightmares and my dreams. So every time I just think of Stone Cold and I see the blood, I'm like, I think of that match, and it was so much fun. I remember watching it when I was young, and it was amazing. But
yeah, it's I have a lot. I'm going to talk about that, but I'm going to save it for later. Hambone, I'll come to you, buddy. What is your 11th greatest moment of all time?
So number 11 for me is another recent one, and it is the Boneyard match.
Interesting. Okay.
So, Shawn is number 1 for me. Undertaker is number 2. And as we know, Undertaker had a couple of not great years when it came to in the ring before that. And it was time for him to go. And for me, the Boneyard match, I know that, it was done. Yeah, it was done because of COVID. But I think it is the best way that they could have handled his last match, because he had proven at that point that in the ring it just wasn't happening for him anymore. But not only that, I mean, I think it was one of the most creative, out of the box ideas that they had come up with. And even though it wasn't something that was in the ring, it was for me a 30 minutes of just completely being entertained. I know that the two cinematic matches, they have their critics. I loved both of them, especially this one. And I think that it was a great way to have Undertaker bow out, going out in a match that was recorded where he didn't look bad at all, and rode out on his motorcycle into the sunset looking powerful, like we all want to see the Undertaker. So
when you think about it in hindsight too, like it's not, you don't get much better of a send off than that. in a sense of the character of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Like it caught all the elements and the greatness of his character, and
we got all of the characters.
Yeah,
we got all
you
of the
did.
Undertaker in there.
Yeah. And you could easily say the most cinematic character in the entire history of professional wrestling, I'd say, is the Undertaker.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I mean, it makes perfect sense for that being the way that he goes out. So I gotta be honest, I was not expecting a moment from WrestleMania 36 to be on this list, but you make a valid point, sir. Well, B-Roll had to step away for a minute because he's got a little bit of a puppy Royal Rumble going on.
Shut that dog up.
So, but we'll continue on here. So for my number 11 moment, and this may be higher on some of your lists, and I love it. It's a great moment, but it's just so hard not only like getting these moments, but ranking them. So for me, I got to go back to, I think, what is arguably maybe if not, I would say yes, it is the most defining moment of the Attitude Era itself. I'm going all the way back to WrestleMania 14. The Austin Era has begun when Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Shawn Michaels for that WWF Championship with Mike Tyson as the special referee. I mean, I think that's truly like that is the moment that just sent the WWF off into the stratosphere, so to speak, from that, man. I mean, like, for Austin to get that moment, number one. Number two, to get it at WrestleMania. The going into that matchup too, especially the behind the scenes stuff too, because I mean, realistically, Shawn shouldn't have been wrestling at this point. Shawn should have been done.
Yeah.
So say what you will about Shawn. I mean, Shawn, like, doing this was like, it had to happen, but but for him, he could have easily said, no, I'm not, fuck it, I'm not going to do it, get somebody else. But kudos to your man, your guys' boy there. Like, I definitely can't take that away from him. And it was a great match too, really. Like, and I remember the build up for it and stuff. I mean, who's going to forget that moment on Raw with like Tyson and Austin? And then you find out Tyson's with DX and everything from like the entrance for both those guys and the Boston Garden going nuts for Stone Cold or whatever the hell they were calling it back then. But yeah, dude, that for me, WrestleMania 14, the Austin Era has begun, and Jim Ross on the call too, man. It's just like one of those iconic. I'm seeing it right away, like Austin up on the ropes, throwing the belt up, man. I mean, it always gets played on the signatures of WrestleMania, and I mean, how cool is it that the biggest draw in professional wrestling of all time, and his first world championship happens at WrestleMania. So for me, that's my 11 moment. So now we're getting into the top 10 here. So Chrissy, what is your 10th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time?
This one's just personal. My 10 is WrestleMania 22, Shawn Michaels versus Vince McMahon. Because I love, even more now, seeing Vince McMahon get the brakes beat off him by Shawn Michaels.
Hell yeah.
Vince McMahon, apparently now, as we all know, in real life, but also in kayfabe, is probably the biggest villain to ever exist in wrestling and the universe that is wrestling. And just to have that cathartic, like, exhale of aggression, seeing him get stuffed inside of a trash can, and Shawn Michaels jumping off of a 30-foot ladder as Jim Ross exclaims in the background, and just seeing him get torn to pieces just made me feel good. And that's honestly why it's a 10. It may not be the biggest storyline progression. It may not be a 5-star Meltzer match, but you know what? Sometimes the world sucks and you need comfort. And that match made me feel real nice.
I mean, that just shows you the greatness. And man, I am putting your boy over a lot tonight, Hambone. But
in my list,
you're gonna
have to. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
They're coming from me.
But I mean, for him to to put on a phenomenal match like that against Vince McMahon, I mean, he might as well be wrestling a mop, for God's sakes. And like I'll never forget the ending of that too, when they're taking Vince off, and that look like Vince is on the stretcher and he just flips the bird to Shawn in the ring, and he has this just the classic Vince McMahon disdain look. Yeah. Yeah, it's not one of the greatest matches, but man, it sure is definitely like a huge moment, man. So yeah, it's crazy to think like Shawn Michaels in the middle of that like insane run that he had as Mr. WrestleMania and like in those latter years, and that match is in there too. And that's one of the highlights of 22 as well, man. And 22 was a pretty solid WrestleMania. So, well, B-roll, did you get the Puppy Royal Rumble? Did they get him settled down?
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't sound like it, but it's okay.
It doesn't sound. It does. Yeah,
He's trying.
you know,
It's all
it's getting ready to. It's getting ready to do some rumble lightning here, and they're
Yeah, it's
They're freaking out
Thunder.
over
See Reggie's chiming in too there, man. So, yep, he's getting in on. Well, let's
Yeah.
continue on here. Tyler, I'm going to come to you, my friend. What is your 10th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time?
I'm sure this will be on other people's lists for sure, especially probably Hambones. But it is the career versus streak. Taker versus retired Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26 in the no DQ match. And there were so many times in that match where I thought either one of them could have been dead. I mean, they absolutely just destroyed each other. And then at the end of the match, when Taker was Taker was doing the cutthroat symbol, and then Shawn, he's like, stay down, and Shawn got back up, did that, and then Taker tombstone him, and it was over. And it was just, I don't know, it was just the amazing brutality of the match, and then the emotion of the match. It was one for the ages, and honestly, it should be higher on my list, but I know other people will have a higher, obviously. So
Everyone panicked when it came to their list.
Yeah.
I honestly, there's a few things I probably left off my list just because I knew you guys would have them. So
I started my list where I was thinking from a historical perspective and importance and stuff, and then I was like, you know what? It's my list. I'm going with my moments. That I love.
I went with my personal moments.
Yeah, that's
Same.
yeah.
Yep.
I think that's
dang straight. And the beautiful part about being the newbie, I get to be the student.
I know,
Just
because this is learning the ropes. You're learning about all these great WrestleMania moments. You're going to be watching plenty of Peacock later on. That's right. You can get all these moments exclusively on Peacock. They should pay us too, damn it. But
Yeah.
Hambone. All right, brother. What is your 10th greatest? You put the Peacock logo there. What's your 10th greatest WrestleMania moment of all time?
So this is my final recent one, but number 10 for me is the first ever women's main event. Charlotte and Ronda and Becky. I have said this so many times this week for so many different things, but whatever, I'm saying it again. This is going to sound like some white knight shit, and I don't mean it to come off that way, but I consider myself a feminist. You know, I support women in every way possible. I want everybody to be equal, all that good shit. So for me to finally see 3 women, especially as somebody who grew up like in the Attitude Era, you know, when I was a kid watching bra and panties matches and all that, it was great, obviously, because I was a kid. And then I grew up, and then I look back and I go, that's kind of fucked up. So as an adult, to finally see all the progress that women have been able to make in wrestling, even though it hasn't been enough, Papa H, if you're watching, to finally see that women could be allowed to main event and that they did it when they deserved to, was just a huge moment. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever forget happening.
Yeah, I mean, the build up to that was second to none. It was like going into it, I remember, because and Becky had a hell of a run that year. I mean, she was like
absolutely, and that's what I meant by deserving it. I mean, she was the hottest superstar on the roster, whether you're talking man or woman at the time.
It's a career defining moment for her. I love
belts.
Yeah, Becky 2 belts.
Yep.
And I love that you brought it up too, and it's just such an amazing moment. Now, like I will say, like I honestly I wasn't a huge fan of the match itself, mainly because I wasn't a fan of the finish.
Right.
But
yeah, and
still,
I'm not even talking about that. Yeah,
we're not even talking about that. Yeah,
exactly. We're talking about moments here, and that's what I'm talking about is seeing it happen finally happen, and then the ending, you know, what it meant to all those women who were in it and all the women fans of wrestling to finally see that. That's what matters to me about it. That's what sticks out about it to me.
Yeah, and it's a massive moment. It's a moment we're going to be talking about years to come. So, yeah, excellent moment, my friend. Well, for me, at my number 10, I got to go back with just another one of these. You see them like on every signature countdown talking about WrestleMania. And once again, I'll preface it with fuck you, Terry. I got to go with number 10 with the whole Hollywood Hogan, that is, stare down with The Rock from WrestleMania 18. Because once again, just like kind of like the Andre the moment, here we have like these two icons. Like, I'll just never forget, like, fuck, it was like 5 minutes before they even started the match, I think. They were just staring at the crowd, staring at each other. And that Toronto crowd was eating it up, man. I mean, just the way their reaction. Now, matter of fact, I would safely say that's the first time in WrestleMania history I can really remember where like the crowd was a pivotal part of the matchup, and like really like the third man, so to speak, in that matchup was the crowd, man. And like I couldn't believe like how the Toronto crowd was like cheering for Hogan so much. Like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Seriously? Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. But for me, I have to have it on my list. It's Toronto.
They weren't gonna get another Mania for a few decades, so they just had to take what they could get at the time.
Yeah.
So well, it is what it is, right? But I had to have that moment on, regardless of how you feel about either of the guys. So, all right, we're continuing on. We're in the top 10. We've broken in number 9. Chrissy, who you got on your list?
So I now know that I super like Hambone because he's a man of taste. Because my number 9 is also the women's 3-way at Mania at 35, because I was there for that match. Nice. I showed up at 10 a.m. to get parking, and then we left at 2 a.m. Monday morning. That's how long that Mania was. And just sitting there and thinking of those moments, as Hambone said, being a little girl, sitting down and watching Trish Stratus and Lita and Stacy and Tori and bra and panties matches, pajama matches, lingerie matches, and being a feminist and being offended, but also being pansexual and kind of liking it. It's all a lot, and it was very confusing. But sitting down and remembering the younger version of me not ever thinking that being taken seriously as a women's wrestler, whatever happened, that's why I didn't go down that road. But now knowing that the younger generation, the girls that I mentor, the girls that I have in my life can now look at these women and see that this is a viable option for them, that if they are just that good, that they will get the attention that is deserved and earned and get their spot in the sun, like Becky, like Charlotte, like Ronda. And was it booked the best all the way through? Absolutely not. I can admit that. I can admit that it should have just been Ronda and Becky, and Charlotte probably should have went after Asuka that year. But, you know, you got to have all the pretty white women in the same match at the same time, and that's what they did. But I love the fact that they finally gave these women and the women's division, past, present, and future, their flowers. And this was the big kind of jumping off point to show that they can close the show, not co-main event, not co-whatever, the finisher. And that is what gave me hope for wrestling going forward, not only for WWE, but for other promotions as well.
Yeah, it's like you both say. I mean, it is seriously that was such a, we never thought we would get to see that type of moment, you know. We hoped we'd get to see it as the women's revolution went on. But it was just like, wow, they are main eventing the biggest show of the year. It's just like, holy shit, it's about damn time. Because it's like Hambone was saying, man, you know, you go 10 years before that or whatever, you know, you got stupid ass like lingerie pillow fights and just like complete utter garbage that shouldn't even been on television. And to go from that to being like the biggest like show of the year. And I also think, and kudos to you too for lasting that long through the day, man. Like, but that just got to show you how incredible of a moment that was, that you were still like so into the moment when it happened
And this was
pretty
after
much
the
being
Kofi
there.
Mania pop. Like I didn't think I
Yeah.
was gonna get it back after the Kofi Mania pop, but they were able. If you're able to hold my ADHD attention span to 2 a.m. on no caffeine and no sleep, you know I love you. Like that's true love. Sleep deprivation, that's true love.
You got that wrestling adrenaline. That's about
Oh,
the
yeah.
only thing I go out of my house at night for is wrestling. If it's not that, what am I doing? Why am I not home?
Damn straight, bro.
Adrenaline in my
I was waiting
soul.
for it.
Something.
Something Cody Road. Anyways,
In Cody
Uh,
Road.
all right, Tyler, what is your number 9 WrestleMania moment of all time?
Now, we just talked about the first time the women main evented WrestleMania. I'm going to talk about the second time where Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair put on a show and kind of almost had a torch passing moment, in my opinion. It was amazing. It was the first time 2 African American women also main evented. 2 women again main evented. It was great. And I think just the emotion after it was all said and done, Bianca was, I mean, obviously in tears and happy to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. But then you saw Sasha down on down by the ring apron. You could see her smiling and happy that Bianca got the title and got her chance. So it just, I don't know. It's always another one of those moments and matches that I'm gonna remember forever. So
Oh, that was the best match of that.
That's like a
WrestleMania
full
that year by
circle
far.
it was.
moment right
Yeah.
there with that.
I mean, that's one of my probably in my personal like top 10 list. I go back and watch that match every year. It's so freaking good. And it's like you say, it's
Mhm.
really Bianca's like coming out party where it's just like, okay, this is the next huge star in pro wrestling. Like,
Yep.
and like you say, for Sasha kind of giving her like that moment. I talk about a moment at the beginning of that match. And just like
Oh,
how they're tearing up,
mhm.
it's like, holy shit, man. Oh,
Yeah.
it's such a good. That is like a definitive, like what the true meaning. Like if you had a WrestleMania moment in the Webster's dictionary, that moment would be right there. That just shows you how great that moment is, man.
If you needed like a recipe for a WrestleMania moment, you could use that right there.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
I like that actually. I like that.
All right, Hambone, what is your number 9 WrestleMania moment?
It's kind of a random one, but WrestleMania 22, Edge spearing Mick Foley through a flaming table.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's on my list.
Definitely.
I think so. I've always been a huge Edge fan. I love Mick Foley. He's one of my favorite people in wrestling. And I think that this was at a point in Edge's career where, you know, a lot of people were kind of criticizing him or for maybe not having an edge or not being tough as a wrestler. And him and Foley definitely went all out in that match. And it's something that's on all of the WrestleMania reels. And that image, much like the table, is burned in my mind of Edge spearing him through the ropes and through that flaming table. Because it's outside of ECW. I mean, we hadn't seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So
No.
to me, it was a big moment.
I think too the cool thing about that was Mick finally like getting his moment as well.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Mick's matches and like they're not that great like during his run at WrestleMania, but it was just like he needed that WrestleMania moment. I always love the story.
Mick says himself that he is Mr. In Your House. If
Yeah,
Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania,
damn
Mick
right.
is Mr. In Your House.
Mind
It's so odd
games.
though, because Mick Foley's kind of like the Midas touch for other wrestlers like Edge, like
Yeah,
Randy
sure.
Orton, like The Undertaker. And it's like what you said, where it's finally nice that he was able to get the similar style of reaction that he's allowed and helped these younger performers gain over the years. It was kind of like some sort of a curtain call in a way, because he was finally getting that big WrestleMania pop that he's helped probably tens of hundreds like other people get over the decades. And now it was finally his time in the light, both literally and figuratively, because you know, fire. But
Yeah.
It was an incredible moment for both of them, honestly.
Yeah, I always love the backstory on that too, that Mick tells about like how he gets on the phone, he's talking to his wife, and the first thing out of his wife's mouth is Edge okay? Like, is Edge okay? Like, yeah, love Mick, man. Well, that is a pretty solid moment. So for me, my number 9 moment, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. Hambone, Chrissy, don't get mad at me, okay?
There we go.
Don't
Here
get
comes the
mad at me.
bullshit.
All right. But it's one of the most iconic calls of all time. I had to have it on my list. I'm not a Sean guy, but at number 9 for me, the boyhood dream comes true. I mean, the build up to that match, I remember as a kid, even being a Brett guy, I will openly admit this, damn it. I was even a part of me, not all of me, but a part of me was kind of like, if Sean wins, that would be kind of cool because he gets his moment, And it just the vignettes, the build up to that, showing the training and stuff. And then, of course, Sean with that grandiose WrestleMania entrance coming down. And the call of a lifetime with Vince McMahon. Say what you will about him, but like the boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels, and just the image of Shawn, holding up the belt, like holding his hands up and the belt strapped around his waist, man. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that for a performer to achieve like the ultimate moment of success of their career. That's a career-defining moment for Shawn Michaels. So I had to have it on my.
I will be talking about that moment later
In great length.
But great choice.
Yes. Thank you.
Hey, I'm just impressed. It cracked like his like single digits. Like it was at number 9. Like he didn't put it down like 12 or
Well, I will admit I kind of shuffled it around.
I'm proud of him.
But it's like you can't deny it, man. I don't care like how you feel.
It was number 14, but he thought he'd get picked on if he didn't include it.
Yeah.
It was the imaginary slot for a second.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't include it because I knew you guys would. So
that's right. He's getting enough shine. So, anyways, I'm just kidding. All right, as we continue on here, Chrissy, what's your number 8 WrestleMania moment?
So my number 8 hurts a little bit. It is a very bittersweet moment, but it's Mysterio winning at 23. The championship at 23. And that year was just heartbreaking for me. Being a Puerto Rican woman, being a person of Latin descent, and having Eddie and Chavo and Ray be my only kind of ties to the wrestling world, like in terms of like things that I could relate to in my culture, and losing Eddie really, really hurt. And just knowing how they treated Ray, knowing that it was always the David versus Goliath storyline, and God only knows what happened with him after he won that title. But that Royal Rumble moment to Mania was probably the biggest emotional high I can probably recall having in terms of wrestling. Just seeing Ray overcome and overcome and overcome again and again and again, for him to finally have to dig his claws in and win. And that big banner of him holding the title above his head with confetti falling down with Eddie's picture in the rafters, because that was the year that they were hanging all the banner flags around the arena. And just that shot, it must have been intentional because everything in wrestling is, that camera shot of Ray holding the title with Eddie's picture behind him just felt like a full circle moment for me. And we've been talking about passing torches. It felt like a metaphorical passing of the torch of Eddie telling Ray, like, it's you now. It has to be you now. And Ray's had a storied career ever since, to the point where now his son is probably one of the most improved wrestlers I've ever seen ever, both in terms of work ethic and in terms of character development. So Ray has taken being the small guy and whatever negative stigmas come with that to becoming one of the biggest people in wrestling ever. Like, he's on my Mount Rushmore. His Hall of Fame speech with Conan inducting him brought me to tears. And knowing that his big journey started with the passing of Eddie and culminated with him winning that title, I'll hold it in my heart forever.
Yeah,
I am very upset that Ray is one of the VIPs for WrestleMania, but it's on the day we're driving in and I can't meet him.
that's yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, if I was like getting into the VIP stuff and even had a chance, but I mean they've obviously all sold out. That would have been the one I probably would have went after of all the ones listed. I mean, dude, Ray is Ray. And I mean, how cool for him to get his first world title win out of WrestleMania too, and just that story, doing it for Eddie, man, and gosh, like the pageantry of that WrestleMania too, and that matchup, and just like with POD playing him in, man, and
his
and
entrance was
and
amazing.
the Aztecs, dude, that was so freaking cool, man, so freaking cool. I love, yeah, that's a definitive WrestleMania moment. That's
a
another
WrestleMania
one.
moment. Absolutely.
Yeah, you could put that on the Webster's dictionary as well, man. Yeah. Awesome moment. All right, Tyler, what is next on your list at number 8?
Well, that was actually my number 8. So
great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, so I mean, basically we just covered
That's
it all.
what you call a good transition moment.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was amazing. So
yeah,
that's what I had.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was wondering if that was going to happen at some point. We're going to have like the same ones,
like one after the other.
Yeah. What about you, Hambone? What's next on your list at number 8?
So number 8 is my first of several HBK moments, and it is WrestleMania 24, HBK, and Ric Flair. I mean, what a perfect story. You know, Shawn wrestling his idol, not wanting to be the one to take him out, but being a competitor, he had to do it. Saying, "I love you," right before he did it. I mean, you know, Flair crying at the end, like a clear shot of him, you know, knowing his career was over, even though it really wasn't. Yeah, I mean, the entire thing, the storyline, the match itself, what happened afterwards, the entire thing was a WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, I got a lot I'm gonna say on that because a spoiler, it's on my list. But oh man, yeah, I'm gonna get to it here in a little bit. But yeah, that's a damn good moment. You talk about cinema.
Yeah.
For me, at my number 8 moment, and Tyler, you mentioned this, and this is going to kind of tie in with the Ray discussion. For me, it's the Benoit Eddie closing show at 20. Just that incredible moment of like you said earlier, Tyler, these WCW journeymen, these guys, these workers. I felt like, you know, if you guys remember, the tagline going into that WrestleMania is where it all begins again. And I felt like with Benoit and Eddie finally getting their dues and winning the championships, I thought, you know, the way WWE was going to be going at that point was like, okay, now we're going to be finally recognizing like these workhorse, these phenomenal wrestlers who should have got their due many, many years before. And just such a cool moment for like, you know, Benoit winning the title. Say what you will after the fact, you know, but him to get that moment in Madison Square Garden, and then just his best friend to be there by his side as the other top champion in the company. I'll never forget that look on Eddie's face, man, and just like the tears welling up, and Benoit's bawling like a baby too. God, man, I'm so sad. I'm grateful we got the moment, but I'm also so sad that we can't openly reminisce about it as much due to the bullshit that happened, you know, many years later. But still, regardless of what you say, man, it is a cool as hell WrestleMania moment. Oh. Okay, Chrissy, I'm coming back to you. What is your number 7 WrestleMania moment of all time?
So number 7 for me goes back to 35, and it's Kofi Mania. And this one's a little bit more personal for me because my best friend in the world, who I have my wrestling podcast with, we went together. And our joke was that we were the New Day. Sans one person. And seeing Kofi, it wasn't even the match itself, which honestly, that match and that everything, I don't think gets enough credit because that's probably some of Daniel Bryan's best work.
Oh, yeah.
Just Persona non
Daniel
grata,
Bryan run. Oh, my God.
Yeah, like tree hugger, vegan Daniel Bryan with the wooden title. Which can we all admit in hindsight that title was a way better design than anyone let on.
It was a pretty cool title.
It's a really cool title, and it fit the character, and no one had really done a title change like that in a minute for it to fit the character so well. Eric Rowan was the heater. Like, this was a moment in time, and the match was great, but just that final 10-second sequence of the kick, of the pin, of everything going on and just the New Day running in and enveloping Kofi and kind of just collapsing into each other and sobbing, and just you seeing that years and years of friendship build and kind of just all release itself into that moment, and Big E and Xavier getting the old title and bringing it to Kofi, and Kofi's sons coming into the ring. And we probably had the worst seats in the arena. We were sitting behind the Titantron because my ex was an idiot and bought bad tickets. We were watching it on the network, on the phone, in the arena. That's how bad the seats were. And I was still crying. That's how much of a moment that resonated with me, where it was a terrible environment and it still hit me to my core. And I give Big E and Kofi so much credit because they really sold that moment for just how big it actually was. And it's just so great. It's so good.
Yeah, Kofi Mania. I think it's on all of our list here. I've got it on my list too. It's popping my dog, so sorry by the way.
They're big.
Yeah.
They're big Kofi fans. They're big
They love
Kofi
Kofi.
fans.
They love the New Day. Yeah, they love pancakes too. I think that's why. But
I'll say they love pancakes too.
they love pancakes, so they love the New Day, of course.
Waffles are better,
it's
but
well, that's up for debate. But anyways, it's such
wrong
a cool
show.
moment.
It's the wrong
too.
show for that.
Wrong show for that, yeah. I also think cool when you think about it too, going into that Mania, like that is truly just if like just the way it happened, because if you remember, it's like Kofi wasn't even supposed to be in like even the title hunt or nothing. Just like I think Mustafa Ali got hurt, right, and they put him in the gauntlet match,
And
and
he was
then
in the
exactly what
Elimination
happened.
Chamber.
Yeah.
He took Mustafa's spot.
As much as I love that moment, as a Mustafa Ali mark, I go back and go, man, what if?
yeah.
What if he was in there
Honestly.
though?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like crazy to think like how that moment came to be. So, yeah, that's a phenomenal moment. Tyler, what about you, buddy? What is number 7 on your list?
7, I got, speaking of Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30. And it's just the very first match of the night with Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. Triple H coming out with all that pageantry. He'd always come out there with I think his warrior goddesses or whatever they were, which was like Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. And I think at that time they weren't on the main roster yet, which was kind of cool. But the fact Daniel Bryan had to win to get into the main event match for the titles, and basically Triple H and Stephanie even at that time were doing everything in their power to stop him. He beats Triple H, then they beat the crap out of him. And it's questioned if he's even going to show up for the main event. But the main event happens, and then halfway through, while he's got the yes lock on, Triple H and Stephanie come out and pull the referee, and it's just the odds were so stacked against him. And just the story, the build, everything to that, and to the moment where he finally won, and you see him in the confetti holding the titles up. It was like the perfect dream and storyline for a wrestler. And that's just one of my favorite moments ever.
Yeah, I mean it's such a heartwarming moment, man. I mean that's another one that's constantly played on the signature as it should be. I mean it's just man, and I'll never forget, for me, like one of the moments from that really sticks out is like where he's ringside and he hugs Connor, and it's just like, oh man, and knowing what happened there and stuff. God, man, it's such like when something like that happens and you get these like defining moments, it's like the greatest high in the world, man. You can't beat it. Hambone, what about you, buddy? What's at your number 7?
Number 7 for me is WrestleMania 17. Edge spearing Jeff Hardy from the belt hanger in the TLC match. There's a couple reasons. Let's talk about the Attitude Era for a minute. As people who were all probably raised on the Attitude Era, we all tend to look at it through rose-colored glasses. But as an adult, gone back and watched it all, a lot of it was shit. Especially when we're talking about like the in-ring work and matches, right? So I feel about this time, those 6 men were responsible for starting to change that. You know, they were the ones who were going out and putting in hard work to put on great in-ring matches. So that's part of it. But the other part for me personally is because I grew up a poor kid. So as a kid, I didn't sit there and watch WrestleManias on pay-per-view, you know. I saw WrestleMania and everything else, you know, once it came out on video and stuff. But, you know, WrestleMania 17, I was 13 years old. This is the first WrestleMania I watched live. So for me, that moment, Edge doing that and all those lights flashing and everything like that, that is the first WrestleMania moment that I saw live that really left a mark on me. So that's why that's on my list.
It's a good one, man. I mean, it's that WrestleMania a lot of times gets credited as the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And the thing is, if you look back on that, the best match on the show is TLC 2.
Absolutely.
And it's just, that's such a huge credit to the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, man, for pulling that off. And
that
you
was
think
the first like live holy shit moment that I ever saw, you know.
that's a pretty damn good. That's the thing too, man. You almost like you hit the pinnacle right off the bat, man. That's like one of the greatest. Just like, oh my god, I can't believe they just did that moments.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool, man. Well, for me, at my number 7, I gotta be honest. This one is a bittersweet one, but it is, in my opinion, probably the most shocking moment in WrestleMania history, the moment I never thought I would see. I'm going, yeah, you know it. The end of the streak.
Boo.
I still was like, what? No, that wasn't 3. That couldn't have been 3. That could have been 3. And then just the look in everybody's eyes of the fans. Like, there's so many of them that's been, you know, turned into memes and stuff. And like, it just
Barbara
like,
Edwards.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's, yeah. Just like how like no why damn it why and it for to be fucking Brock Lesnar. I mean, come on, man.
So I had that moment on my 27 moments, and then I went, why am I putting a moment that made me sad on this list?
I thought about taking it off, but I was just like, man, it's just what did it for me and kept it on my list, Hambone, honestly, is the crowd's reaction.
Sure.
Because that's just something I'm never going to forget.
Yeah. No, I mean, just like you just said, I remember like it's probably the only moment in wrestling that literally took my breath away.
Yeah.
You know?
I was watching that Mania with friends, and we were, because like it's a Taker match at Mania. Of course he's gonna win.
Yeah.
So that was our bathroom break. We're walking around, everyone's drinking beer, and then ding, ding, ding. And you could literally, it was like the mannequin challenge. Like everyone just stopped moving, and everyone was like, "Did you hear a bell go off?" No. And then we were rounded back, and we played it again. And my friend got so upset that he cracked his Corona bottle with just the strength of his hand from frustration and sadness. Like, it was a really big night.
Just that moment of deafening silence between the 3 count hitting and Brock Lesnar's music hitting.
Yeah, because they don't. It's so
they don't play it right away.
Yeah, which was brilliant because like let the crowd let this moment set in. Like this
70,000 people and dead silence. Like,
yeah,
you don't get that often.
No. And then like for me, I thought it was like, oh my god, this is like the first botched finish in Mania history or something. And then and it doesn't really set in until the damn graphic, and you're like, oh my god, this is fucking real. This really just happened. And then we got to say this: kudos to Hall of Fame inductee this year, one Paul Heyman. Just the look on and his reaction, like, oh my god, you did it. It's just like, what the fuck did I just see? Yeah. So for me, like I'm like you, Hambone. I was like, I didn't want to include it, but then I was just like, man, just the crowd's reaction and stuff. It's just one of the craziest. It's probably is the craziest WrestleMania moment of all time. Was the end of the streak. But okay, Chrissy.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have? Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
I actually have that at number 1 because I was just I can't think of anything more crazy and shocking.
Yeah.
Ever. Well,
spoiler alert.
I'm gonna alternate something out for number one, even though it might not be number one later. I got something to go with on the plot.
It's your list, bro. You can do whatever you want, my friend. All right, Chrissy. What's your number 6 moment?
So my number 6, very similar to how you're on F Terry Bollea hours. It is always and forever F Brock Lesnar hours in this household. So it's the heist of the century. It's Seth Rollins running down that 10-mile ramp to save that piece of crap match that was happening between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Not to say that Brock isn't talented in an athletic sense, nor is Roman. Roman is obviously very talented in an athletic sense because he went from suffering succotash to the tribal chief. So we got to give him his flowers. But just no one was hyped for that match going into that Mania. No one was really hyped. I think that was one of the Manias where, again, we knew that Brock was leaving not too shortly afterwards because for some reason we always know when Brock is leaving. That's just the thing with him. So it's kind of dead. It's not as hype as it should be for the main event. And then all you hear is just the mosh pit go off and the crowd erupts out of their seats. And I, in my very small apartment in New Jersey, lost my voice to the point where I couldn't speak on my phone call based job for a week. I ripped my vocal cords to the point where I tasted blood in my mouth. That's how immensely excited I was for Seth Rollins to run down to that ramp and then afterwards to see that little WWE 24 documentary they did about him and knowing that his parents were in the crowd to see it happen and just the image of him whirling the title like a madman at the top of the ramp as the camera cuts was such a good moment. And just to know that it further frustrated Brock Lesnar just that much just puts the cherry on top for me, honestly.
Yeah, you man. I remember that Mania and going into the main event and just like, I don't give a shit. Like I don't like Brock. I don't like Roman. And you know what's so crazy to think about? Like this Roman version compared to what we have now with our tribal chief, just to see like how he's literally went from being like shoved down to our throats to now he is like the guy.
Never around.
He's never around, but yeah, but still, he's a draw nonetheless. Hambone, we got to give our tribal chief back.
No. Listen, I was a Roman hater for a long time too. I've enjoyed the tribal chief era with him. It was like he went away for 6 months and came back and just got it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. I was just making the comparison because you said, "Oh, he was shoved down our throats," and then suddenly he wasn't down our throats at all.
Yeah, and then now we like respect.
Might have been a better way to put that, but you know what the fuck I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, and then also us
some
fickle
people
fans
may
like
want Roman Reigns shoved down their throats. We don't kink shame here.
Listen,
everything's fine.
Listen, very open-minded on this podcast, so
we don't yuck any yums. We don't dispute any yams.
We weekly shove things down our throats here on Cold TV. Wait a minute, what did I say? Oh, anyway, but yeah,
you have me on here.
Yams down your throat. Go for it.
YOLO. Tyler, what is your oh god, where are we at? What's your number 6 moment of WrestleMania?
I have Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth reuniting at WrestleMania 7. Just the emotion of them coming back together after what I think it was after WrestleMania 5 when the Mega Powers exploded and basically Randy became the Macho King, got Sensational Sherry, and threw Miss Elizabeth to the curb. She shows up in the audience where it's Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior retirement match, basically. And Macho Man loses, Sherry gets pissed, and here comes Miss Elizabeth, kind of backs him up. And, you get that stare down, they look at each other, and then they embrace, and it was just a tearjerker. So one of the all-time classics in my head. So
hell yeah, dude. It's I've got a lot more I'm going to say on that because it's on my list as well. But oh man, such good stuff. Cinema. Hambone, what do you got number 6 on your list?
Number 6 for me is another Shawn Michaels moment, but not his best. and that's getting knocked out by Mike Tyson at WrestleMania 14.
Oh.
I make the argument that, in my opinion, the Attitude Era started with DX before we got to WrestleMania 14. But I think that WrestleMania 14, Shawn getting knocked out by Mike Tyson, who was just, one of the biggest celebrities on the planet at that point, and Stone Cold finally becoming champion and his era officially starting. You can't deny that that's when the Attitude Era absolutely like kicked off. Like that was the kickoff of, one of the biggest boom periods of wrestling, the one that I was raised in. So it's hard to not put that moment on. So that's my number 6.
Yeah, I mean it's like you say, like you DX, and I have my opinion on like Attitude Era stuff, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit as this list goes on.
Are we going to fight again?
No, I don't think
All
so.
right,
No,
all right.
I've got to put your boy. I think I've done a pretty good job putting your boy over. Tonight,
You have.
I would say. Thank
I
you.
don't have one Bret Hart moment on my list. I'm not even going to lie to you.
That
So.
makes me sad. Other
I'm going
than
to be honest with you. When I had 27 moments, I did have a Bret Hart moment on it, but it was him getting beaten by Owen. So,
it's a great moment though.
Owen's the better heart.
No comment.
I mean, I didn't say it.
No comment.
Yeah.
I love them both. Don't make me choose my
I'm never
two
getting
favorites.
invited back again, am I?
No. Yeah, it's yeah. No, it's hard to choose between them. I love both the Hart brothers. But okay, so for me, I know we've talked about this already. I think it's been on all of our list really, but at number 6 for me, I go back to Kofi Mania from 35. Like we said earlier, just like it's crazy like how that match manifested itself into happening, because I guarantee you when they were booking WrestleMania months out, they did not have that match as far as like Kofi going against Danielson. And which I think, if I remember correctly, going into that one, there was talks of either I think it was like KO was the potential opponent they were thinking for Danielson for that year's WrestleMania. And man, oh man, like just like how this took over, and him being in the gauntlet match and then going on to Elimination Chamber and coming so close, and just the teases, and just like running a gauntlet match again on SmackDown, and then that iconic tag gauntlet match that the New Day won in order to get Kofi into there, and just like the entrance and stuff alone, and that crowd just going ballistic, man. And then I'll never forget like when the moment finally happened, and like, Kofi hits the Troubles in Paradise, gets the 1, 2, 3, the look on his face, this look of just like, oh my God, all these years of hard work has finally paid off. And you mean to tell me not only am I winning my first WWE championship, but I'm doing it at WrestleMania? You're damn right you are. And then, gosh, the moment with like Big E and Xavier, and just the tears in their eyes and stuff. And I remember seeing the videos and stuff after this. Like the one of them that sticks the most out to me is MVP and JTG and the late great Shad. Like, that moment at that bar where they're just like, man, one of our own finally did it. It's like, God, it's such you can't manifest or write a better moment than that, man. And I always love too Kofi's kids getting in the ring with him, celebrating, man. And man, Kofi's oldest throwing, he was into it, man, like throwing the shirt out in the crowd and stuff. Like, God, it's just every single thing about that moment is just so heartwarming. And if you don't have tears in your eyes, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's just such a good moment. So, but for me, I had that at my number 6. So here we are. We're getting into the top 5 now. All right, Chrissy, what's your number 5 Mania moment?
So wrestling for me has always been very much it's more cinema, as you've been saying, than anything else. It's more similar to Game of Thrones than it would be to like an NAACP, not NAACP, freaking basketball, like
NCAA.
Thank you.
We got you.
I need sleep. But yeah, like my number 5 is the end of an era match. because just the cinematography alone, I don't know who they had as the cameraman for that match, because I hate cell matches with a passion, because you can never get correct angles, like especially during that decade. Like for some reason, the cell matches just were never shot well, except that one. And just the facial expressions that were sold, the movement in the ring, to the last couple of moments where they're literally dragging each other to the top of the ramp because there's nothing else left to give. That, I'm gonna be one of the many people that have said this, I know, but that should have been Taker's last match. Whether or not it would have been the end of the streak or not, I'm not sure, but that would have been perfect as Taker's last match, because those are really like the horsemen of the apocalypse for that era, was Hunter, Shawn, and Taker, the locker room leaders for their decades. And just seeing them all exhausted because they literally have nothing else left to give the business, it's just one of my favorite images.
Yeah, it's like you say, just the whole presentation of that. I mean, I'll never forget. For God's sakes, they're in the ring, and the damn cell gets entrance music, for crying out loud, and it was Metallica at that. It's like, oh, this is badass, man. And just the way Taker and Triple H, and by the way, both those guys, I would arguably say, like, have the best facial expressions of any wrestler of all time. Like, hell, they were the first guys really to kind of like point out the WrestleMania sign that we all know is like so infamous for it. I'll never forget that. I know it was a year before, but still, like, them just looking at the WrestleMania sign and setting up their match, and they didn't have to say words. You already knew what the hell was going on. So, like, truly two great masters of professional wrestling. So, yeah, at the end of an era is just, it's such a chef's kiss type of moment. And I agree with you too. I kind of like wish that would have been Taker's like send off, because I mean that's a pretty damn good send off, but it is what it is. So, okay, Tyler, what is your number 5 WrestleMania moment?
Well, before we knew what we knew now, they had this match called Icon versus Icon at WrestleMania 18. That would be The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. The match itself, I mean, maybe not the greatest matches of all time, but the atmosphere, the tension, just the crowd was cheering for Hogan, even though he was the heel. A lot of it. And then after The Rock wins and they're leaving, and he leaves the ring, and Hall and Nash come out and beat up Hogan, and The Rock goes in, saves him, and then they do a Hogan must pose at the end. For everybody, him and The Rock posing in the ring together, and they shook hands too. I should say that, but it was just like two eras basically came together. And even though they obviously were together in the same era for a while there, but it was just like two generations basically, like Hogan and then The Rock, and then I don't know. It was in the moment. In that moment, it was amazing.
Yeah, regardless of how you feel about the guys, like, you can't deny that moment, man, because it's just like, and like you said too, like the crowd, that atmosphere was unlike any other we really had seen at that point. I mean, that, and it's just like, you can't, like, that's another one of those things, man. I couldn't imagine being in that crowd and just being the atmosphere had to have been insane, man. All right, Hambone, how about you, my friend? What is your number 5 moment?
So we're doing a lot of talking tonight about cinema, right? I feel 4 out of my top 5 are cinema. This one included, which is WrestleMania 3, Steamboat and Savage.
Ah, yes.
So Randy Savage on my Mount Rushmore. There's no denying to me that at that time he was the workhorse when it came to in-ring work in the WWF, and everything. Just, I mean, the whole thing is cinema leading up to it. You know, in November of the year before, Randy, you know, crushing Steamboat's throat with the ring bell after their Intercontinental title match, and Steamboat staying off of TV the whole time, coming back, coming out with his wife and kid, having, you know, one of the most memorable matches in wrestling history. him winning, getting revenge, all that good stuff. I mean, that match inspired an entire generation, not only of fans, but future superstars. And I feel like without that match, we wouldn't even have half of the people in wrestling who became, superstars in the Attitude Era and afterwards without that match. So,
dude, it's like it's easily on the Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania matches.
Mhm.
It's crazy about 3 is it's because like everybody, what drew the people, what got the house, obviously was Hogan and Andre. But
Mhm.
what were they talking about the next day? They were talking about that Steamboat Savage match
Mhm.
and just how good it was, man. It's one of the all-time greats. I'm so glad somebody had that on their list. I almost like had it, but I was just like, I'm thinking moments, so I kind of, but still, it's a freaking amazing moment, man. And if you think about it too, Hambone, like I really think that's the launching point for the Macho Man, where it
I
shows
agree.
you like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this guy can be one of the top guys, and he was.
Yeah.
He was one of the few wrestlers who transcended pro wrestling into pop culture.
Yep.
It's interesting you have that at 5 because I also have a Macho Man moment. But for me, I got to go back to what Tyler said. It's WrestleMania 7. It's the Macho Man reuniting with Miss Elizabeth. I just remember watching that as a kid, and even I was just like so like emotional about it. It was like one of those things when it happened, I didn't realize I would be as attached to it as I was, because it's like you were saying earlier, Tyler, like the whole stuff with the mega powers, and then Savage goes off with Sherry and it's with her for a couple years and becomes the Macho King. And then you get to this incredible matchup too, by the way, at WrestleMania 7 with the Ultimate Warrior against the Macho King in this career-ending matchup. And just like the way it goes down, and then like Macho Man or Macho King at the time threw everything at the Warrior, and somehow like the Warrior had enough to just finish Savage off like that. I just remember watching it as a kid, because if you look back on that match too, I'm pretty sure that's like one of the first real big matches in wrestling history where like you get a significant amount of false finishes. Because I mean, let's face it, the false finish is done over and over again. It's downright repetitive at this point. But that back then, it made sense because it's like this is beyond a championship. This is like literally like whoever loses this is not going to wrestle ever again. So, and then just that moment, like Savage is like his career is over. This is it. Like all the great things he's done, and now it's over. And then Sherry turning on him and kicking him while he was down. And then like he's down in his ultimate, like the worst moment of his career, right? And who is there to raise him up? It's the love of his life, Miss Elizabeth, And then just the way they reunite in their hug, and the crowd. My God, the crowd! Just the images of so many of the fans like crying and openly weeping, and just also on the call. Kudos to the late great Gorilla Monsoon, man. Just oh my gosh, putting this all over the top. So for me, it's a high moment on my list because I absolutely loved it when the Macho Man and Elizabeth got back together. And I will say this too. WrestleMania 7, like I know a lot of people talk about. For me, it's like it's like a guilty pleasure WrestleMania. It's like one of my favorite WrestleManias. I watched the shit out of that as a kid. I don't know why it's that one I gravitate towards, but I just love that WrestleMania, but mainly because of this moment. So, okay, we're getting into the final 4. Here we go. Chrissy, what's your number 4 WrestleMania moment?
Number 4 WrestleMania moment is WrestleMania 37, Bianca versus Sasha. Just because it was the last, it's after the bell rings. It's the moment where Bianca wins and her father almost spills over the barricade because he's just so excited that his daughter won. It's the WWE Instagram video of Montez Ford literally catching Bianca as she collapses past the curtain and carrying her while she's sobbing with the title. And this is where you realize that for some of these performers, it's more than a job. It's a passion. It's a lifestyle. They're not just there to collect a check. And Bianca Belair unfortunately for many years has had to do double to triple the amount of workload to get half of the recognition as her peers. And that moment was her official send off into the world as the ambassador of the WWE women's division, because she's just too good. She earned the moniker of the EST not by it being assigned to her by someone in creative, but because she has forced other people to recognize her as such. And my favorite moment of that night, because I'm not gonna lie, I thought being from, like being from where I'm from, that the Bad Bunny thing was gonna be my little moment of night one. It was her, Bianca Belair, cracking Sasha Banks across the abdomen with the end of her braid, and you hearing the reverb throughout the arena. And then once the bell rings, you see Sasha kind of sitting on the ramp, as Tyler was saying beforehand. Right before she smiles, there's that moment of like disbelief, and you can see the gash in her stomach. And that's the moment I show people where it's like, hey, like, yeah, wrestling may be fake, but not all of it is.
No.
And just knowing that Bianca has then done so much with her career in terms of being one of the first like being the first Black woman on the cover of 2K, getting her show with Montez being used for promotional material all across the globe. Everyone loves Bianca. You have little girls of all creeds and colors getting extensions in their hair to do the braid, because with Bianca it's not about what she looks like, it's just how good she is. So no matter who you are, race, creed, or color, you know her and you love her and you respect her, no matter who you are. She deserves and demands that respect, and that is why she is at number 4 along with Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Can I just make like a quick point that I've been thinking about, as we're going through all these?
Yeah.
We keep talking about what makes a WrestleMania moment. I feel like all of us agreed that one of the things that makes it is that emotional connection, right? And I feel like everything in the past, from when, WWF became public and going through the Attitude Era and all that stuff, those emotional moments were, for the most part, manufactured. They were emotional moments that were made through the storylines and things like that, for us as kids. But now as adults, we're kind of like the first generation that gets to see these superstars who grew up on pro wrestling, that it was their dream. It was the only thing that they wanted to do. And then we get to see them go and have these huge moments and show genuine emotion of how much it means to them. And for us as hardcore wrestling fans, I feel like that makes it so much more relatable, that we can see how much it means to them as well, not just to us, that they love this too. So I think that now, like, those are what causes the emotional moments for us now, is seeing things like that where the wrestlers break down, because it really means a lot to them. It's not just about whatever storyline is happening. They love this stuff just like we do, and that's a cool thing to see, because we're the first generation that really gets that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's that, man. Truer words could not be said, because I mean, you think about it, it's like, they, in years prior, it was kind of like setting the blueprint, so to speak, for this, because we just, WrestleMania in its infancy, through the first 10 or so years, and now, you're getting competitors like hell. We're going into this WrestleMania, and like we're getting like Cody and Seth going against The Rock and Roman, and just like Seth finally getting a true WrestleMania main event.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
But not only that, I feel like, generations past, as far as the wrestlers themselves, it was all, this was just all about business. That's all it was. It was a job to make money. Whereas the generation that we're seeing now, like I said, they're a lot like us. Like, they grew up loving this, and a lot of us wanted to do this. A lot of us, this was our dream, was to be involved in wrestling. And we're seeing that generation come up, and it's just completely different.
I guarantee you, some of the guys in this year's WrestleMania main event, when they were kids, they were wrestling like their dolls or their whatever, in their bedroom, and jumping off and envisioning that WrestleMania moment. And I have to wonder if this year though, like, and I just want to touch on this briefly, are these moments gonna like what I think's kind of like I get why they're doing it, but it's gonna kind of suck as like we look back on like this what's gonna happen this year, and right in the center of the fucking ring is gonna be a Prime logo. Thanks, by the way, for that producer B. Oh, I got ice pop too. I'm not gonna lie, it is delicious. So I'm a sellout.
Well, it's one of my.
I'm
favorites.
bitching about it, yet I'm drinking the drink. So whatever.
I drink it. I drink it. I bet kids.
Okay. Yeah. So true story. Yesterday I told you this today, but if you have not tried the strawberry banana, go try that. Go try.
I haven't tried
Try
any
that
Prime.
one.
I haven't found
I
it
heard
yet.
it's terrible.
It is so
Is it actually good?
The
Listen,
hydration drinks are good.
yes, the energy drinks are awful.
Oh,
And
Yeah, they're
there
energy
is
drinks.
a ungodly amount, a unhealthy, ungodly amount of caffeine in them. I'll say this: I don't like Logan Paul as a person, but the guy knows how to make a drink.
oh yeah, there.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, these are addicting. I'm not gonna lie, but it's the hydration, not the energy.
Yeah.
I only like him because he looks like the electric gym trainer from Pokemon. That's really it. Like, it's just the aesthetic,
really
and
does.
that's
I
it.
even thought about that. Oh my god.
I was definitely when this podcast started. I had my phone out because I was playing Pokemon Go because there was something outside of my house I had to catch. So
I gotta catch him
I
all.
like him.
Nice.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, talk about a WrestleMania moment. I just had a moment right there. Hambone, we gotta add each other.
listen, we
Yeah,
talked
this
about this
happened.
last time, and then nothing happened. So
You get on it, B-roll.
I need
Did?
to make 3 new
Remember.
friends to complete some field research. So let's make this happen.
Oh gosh.
There you go.
I'm a daily gifter. Like
Same here,
got
brother.
you.
Let's make that happen. Get in the
I-
gym, right?
I have your number, B-roll. I'm going to text you right now my code. So we're going
Oh,
to make that happen.
it's going down live here on Cold.
We're making money moves for Pokemon Go. It's wild.
We're talking great WrestleMania moments. It's just like we're
Pokemon Go, if you would like to, sponsor this podcast or my podcast,
So
more
it's
than
just
welcome
it's just
to.
a room of
answer.
ADHD is what I'm assuming. Just
Yeah.
everyone seasoned, not just me.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Okay, Tyler, what is your number 4 WrestleMania moment?
Let's see. Number 4, I have. You talked about the stare down at WrestleMania 3. I'm going to talk about the slam, the Hogan selling his back, not thinking he could pick up Andre and slam him down, and he finally does, and the crowd absolutely loses it because no one thought it was going to happen, and supposedly it never happened before, but now we know it had. Obviously, in other shows, not in the WWE though. So, but that was an iconic moment. Iconic match, and like you said, it might Steamboat and Macho Man definitely stole the show with their match, but I don't think without that match and without that moment, I don't know if Mania would have ever been what Mania became after that, because there was so much hinging or impending on that being a very successful WrestleMania from what I've heard and what you've seen since from people that were involved in it, as far as with the WWE and stuff too.
And you really think about that WrestleMania too. It's the first truly like spectacle of what we know WrestleMania to be, with 93,000 people there at the Pontiac Silverdome, man. I mean, it's just it's crazy to think about. Like, and that was like, over 30 plus years ago. So yeah, like say what you will, but and also massive kudos to Andre the Giant too, and like doing business and doing like put Hogan over. I mean, like even though Hogan was like, the white meat baby face, all the kids say your prayers, eat your vitamins, etc., etc. Like that moment just put him up and beyond in the upper echelon of like professional wrestlers. So you can't deny that, whether you love him or hate him. But all right, Hambone, what about you, my friend? What's your number 4 moment?
So number 4 for me, it's already been talked about, is Savage and Elizabeth. I don't really think there's a lot more to say. You and Tyler pretty much said it all, but we're talking cinema, we're talking emotional moments. It's one of the top emotional moments in wrestling, period. And again, Savage being on my Mount Rushmore, it's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah. I mean, it's cinema. That's the best way you can describe it, man. For my number 4, I'm going with, I know we've already talked about this, but I got to go because it saved the damn match. It saved the damn night. It's the greatest cash in of any Money in the Bank. It's the heist of the century. Because I really had no idea how that match was going to go. It was kind of just like, and I will say this, I think for me personally going into that match, I didn't care about it. But by the way it went down and stuff, like, especially with the finish, it was like, this actually is a pretty good match, which kind of blew me away because I was just thinking like, oh, this is just going to be boring as hell. I mean, the only thing I really wanted to see that year was Sting at WrestleMania, and that's another story for another time. And just when that music hit and Seth had come out, man, you're just like, holy shit. And it's just mind-boggling to think too, like, you know, logistics would make sense. Like, you cash it in at the biggest show of the year, right? If you got the damn briefcase, just do it then. That's the ultimate opportunity. And yes, we're sponsored by Pokemon Go. I was wondering when that was happening, but yeah, for me, it's heist of the century at number 4. It's it's the greatest Money in the Bank cash in. It saved that Mania, it saved that match, and it was a career defining moment for Seth Rollins, man.
So, sidebar. Do we think we see another WrestleMania cash in this year? Because I kind of think we do.
Please, dear God, yes, because I swear to God, I'm calling racism if Damian Priest goes a full year and still fails.
I kind of see
everything in the book. Absolutely not.
I kind of see Drew beating Seth, Damian coming out, cashing in, winning it, and then afterwards we see Drew and his goal to be to take down the Judgment Day, and then we see that through Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, whatever.
Here's the scenario. Here's
my thought.
Okay.
Here.
If you and I are thinking the same thing, I bet we're thinking the same thing.
So we have the tag match, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this, so we probably are. So you have the tag match. I think the Bloodline's going to win the tag match. So we have Bloodline rules for night 2. I think Seth's going to be pretty beaten up after the tag match. I think Damian cashes in night 1. And night 2, you have Damian and Drew.
Yeah.
That could possibly happen.
Here's the only reason that I'm saying I don't think that's what's going to happen.
I don't think it will, though.
I love Damian Priest, but there's no way that he is in a position to main event WrestleMania right now by himself. No. So, if anything, for me, I would say if it's not him cashing in after the match, he cashes in to make it a triple threat. But I don't think we do that main event on night 2 without Seth Rollins.
I still question if he's going to win or not, just because of the fact that they're keeping the CM Punk flame alive with Drew.
Very much so.
I don't know how. I mean, it's going to be a couple months yet before Punk will be able to come back, which you could have the Damian Judgment Day Drew thing go on then. But it's constantly the CM Punk and Drew thing is still there. So, and it's going to be there, a week from Monday when he's on there. I'm sure we'll get Drew out picking at Punk. So,
I'm glad you mentioned, because here's my theory on it. Oh, what? Go ahead. Go ahead, B-roll.
I was going to say, am I wrong? Like, the main events are set though. It's the tag match night 1 and then Cody Roman night 2.
Well, as far as we know, but I mean,
but we're still getting Drew and Seth. That's been set.
Yeah. Drew and Seth will probably open, I would guess, more than likely.
Yeah. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think you're obviously Drew and Seth's night 2, but I think because a certain someone is going to already be in Philadelphia, I think we're going to get a special CM Punk as a special referee in this match. And here's how I could see it go down. Drew has his moment, right? Finally gets his moment that he rightfully deserves. And then he's there, he's being arrogant, cocky, whatever, throwing it back in Punk's face, right? And then Punk throws like a kick or something, let's say, knocks him out. And then what if Damian Priest comes out and cashes in the Money in the Bank? I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen, though, honestly. I think, if anything, I think it happens the night after Mania.
Raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, at Raw, I think is where it would happen. But I would love to see it, nonetheless. It's long overdue. But I don't know. We could speculate and talk about that.
Lots of possibilities. That's
Lots-
for sure.
Get back to the
Endless
goddamn
possibilities.
subject.
Yes, let's get back to the subject at the end. Now we're at the number 3. Chrissy, what is your number 3 WrestleMania moment of all time?
So once again, we've been talking about cinema this entire thing because it's the grandest stage of them all. It's the showcase of the immortals, and nothing will cement someone's legacy more for me than the year where the world stopped working, WrestleMania 2020, the Firefly Funhouse match. In a time where we didn't think that Mania was going to work, it was a pirate-themed Mania in the Performance Center. And we didn't know how it was going to work. We didn't know what was going to go on. And Bray Wyatt puts on an Oscar-worthy segment, a character study of someone that I have not seen beforehand or since, of John Anthony Felix Sr. Jr., and just the minute details, the attention to everything that man has ever done. John Cena could have spat in a lake and in like 1997, and he somehow found a way to bring it up in that match. The callbacks to Devil Vince McMahon with the puppets, the original plan where they were going to have everyone from Nexus come back, and it didn't work out because certain people couldn't travel because of COVID. But that's how deep they were willing to go for this segment, for John Cena just to disappear into thin air at the end. Did they book him correctly afterwards? Absolutely not. But for that 15 to 20 minutes in time, that was my Avengers Endgame. That was everything for me. He did so well. And I know that you mentioned the Boneyard match earlier in terms of like the cinematic matches. I'm sorry, I'm so excited I can't speak. That was also an amazing match, but this was the jumping off point. They would not have ever known that the Boneyard match could have worked if it wasn't for the Firefly Funhouse match. And now we have all of these vignettes returning slowly but surely back to WWE. They're doing more character work in NXT. And I really feel like that Firefly Funhouse match was kind of the permission that needed to be given, that you can get a little wild and wacky with wrestling again. It doesn't need to be super artificial, but you can break the fourth wall just enough to kind of mess with people's heads. And that was the perfect combination of everything. And I really don't think that we're going to see another mind like Bray Wyatt's in a long time.
Yeah, you couldn't be more spot on, like, with as far as like cinema and just like the psychology of that matchup is just absolutely insane, of like a character study of arguably the biggest star of that of the past 20 years, you could say, in John Cena, Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, Respect. The best way I think I could sum it up is like this: if you're a big movie buff, it's like, take the Boneyard match was like a classic Sam Peckinpah movie, like a Western, and this match here, the Firefly Funhouse, is like a Charlie Kaufman movie. You're like, what the fuck did I just watch? That was a mind fuck of a movie. So there was a mind fuck of a match, but in a good way, because you're just like, I mean, even when they came back to Titus O'Neil, and he's just like, I don't know what I just saw. I mean, it's like, yeah, that summed up for all of us, buddy. Like, what was that?
She government named this man. Like, she was serious.
Yeah. I was like, I got it. Okay, I'm gonna shoot straight with you. I didn't. So Felix is one of his middle names.
It is.
I did not know that.
It is.
I learned something new tonight. I'll be damned.
Hey,
Felix,
you learned the ropes tonight, big guy.
You taught me something, Chrissy. So
He said
thank
it. He
you.
said it.
All right, Tyler, what is your number 3 Mania moment?
Well, number 3 has already been talked about quite a bit. It's the crime of the century for me, and I can just envision Seth running down that long ass ramp all the way down to the ring, over and I mean, all the time. I don't know why. I would randomly be thinking about something in the day, and then all of a sudden that'll like pop in my head, him running down there, and then the look on his face when he has the case, and it's like he's like almost jumping up and down in the ring, trying to give it to the ref, like, "Let's
Oh,
go,
that's
let's
your
do
Roman
this." And,
Empire.
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It kind of is, and I don't know. I randomly just have flashbacks to that all the time. It's crazy. I don't know if it's because me and Seth are both from Iowa or what it is, but uh, it just it's always in my head, and then I always remember that pretty clearly and vividly.
It's wrestling brain, dude. It's like if I see someone running from a far distance like that super fast, I'm like, oh fuck, he's gonna have a briefcase and bludgeon me to death with it. Like, oh no, oh no, oh wait a minute. Oh shit. Yeah, the heist of the century is such a great moment. All right, Hambone, what is your number 3 Shawn Michaels? I mean, your number 3 WrestleMania moment.
Number 3 is a Shawn Michaels moment. It's already been brought up. Chrissy brought it up, but it's WrestleMania 10, the ladder match. I became a fan in like 1993. I was 6 years old. So this match happened the year after. So this is, again, a match that I saw after it happened, after the fact. But by the time I saw it, Shawn Michaels was already my favorite. Scott Hall is one of my all-time favorites at this point. And not only for what the match meant for the wrestling industry, because obviously that, like Chrissy said, I mean, it changed the perception of a gimmick match and that they could be good if they were done right. But personally, for me, it was the first match as a young child who had just fallen in love with this art form. The first time where I went, holy shit, this is the best match I've ever seen in my life. So it sticks out as a memory for me because I remember that was the first time where I really was focusing on what was happening in the ring more than the story or anything like that, and just really being blown away by the athletic portion of the match itself.
Yeah, it's like I said before, man, it's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of Mania moments, man. And I mean, I know you've got some more Shawn moments ahead, but
yeah.
But for it to be that high on the list for you, that just speaks volumes of how important that moment was. And like you say, not only for both competitors, but for the entire industry itself, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Another match that inspired a whole generation of wrestlers. I mean, how many guys currently wrestling have you heard say, oh, the Shawn Razor match, that's when I knew I had to be a wrestler? Like, dozens of people have said it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the first real one you touched upon was Savage and Steamboat, I would say this is the next one on down the line, that inspired wrestlers was this matchup.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep this Shawn Michaels gravy train running here.
That's right.
It's at my number 3, but I'm going with a different moment. To me, it is everything that embodies the greatness of professional wrestling. The story, just the classic, it's the student teacher, and just that line. It's the single greatest line I've ever heard at a WrestleMania. I'm sorry, I love you. It's just Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair's retirement.
I just got you said it, and I got a chill.
Right, and I can see Shawn's face and just the great facial expressions of just like him. God damn it, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. It's what he wants, and then Flair just openly, weepingly, like coming to terms with like, this is it. I've had one of the greatest, most illustrious careers of all time. I'm at WrestleMania, the biggest show of them all. I'm against Mr. WrestleMania, arguably the greatest WrestleMania performer of all time. Like, this is the moment. I knew this was coming, but I'm not. But it's like, I'm ready. It's like, go ahead, just do it. Give me the super kick. He delivers the super kick, and God, man. And then the just Flair looking up, just crying like a baby. And Shawn, just grasping his head, just, whispering into him, I love you, whatever else he was saying. It's like, God, man, Like you talk about utter raw emotion. It's one of the most emotional WrestleMania moments of all time. It's so good. It's so good. And I really wish it would have been Flair's last match, but that's an argument for another time. But damn, that WrestleMania 24, the I'm Sorry I Love You is so freaking good.
It was a much different moment than the Ric Flair last match I was at.
Yeah, that one I was utterly terrified. I was like, oh my God. But anyways.
Please don't die. Please don't die.
Honestly,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're getting down to the wire here, and it's okay because I got a call from the network. I know we're going into overtime, but they've allotted us time to go over. It's all good. So.
Hey, thanks, Siobhan.
It was the
Chrissy.
Pokemon Go sponsorship.
That's right. Chrissy, what's your number 2 moment?
So, OG, you're gonna love me for my last 2 because it's all Sean all day, and it's 26. It's Shawn Taker 26.
Okay.
And when I say I'm a Shawn Michaels girl, I'm a Shawn Michaels girl to my soul, to my core, and him retiring broke me in a way that I didn't think that wrestling could emotionally affect me. It's like when you finish a book and you cry and you didn't think it would have that effect on you, but it did. And these are 2 grown adult men that I will never see in my life, that don't know I exist, that are in a different tax bracket that I will ever hope to be in. And they were still able to emotionally resonate with me at that time, where knowing Shawn would retire, but it's wrestling, they always come back. But when that was the final mark on that chapter of his story, I bawled my eyes out because he was my comfort wrestler for a long, long time. And he's what I came to see. He's Mr. WrestleMania. How could you not? And just knowing that he put all of himself into that match, Taker did an incredible job. They both took amazing care of each other. And Shawn said something when working with Hunter, I think it was for the SummerSlam match that they did when he returned, where when you work with your best friends, you do some of your best work because you can do anything and you don't have to say it. You just read each other's facial expressions. You know each other well enough to where you can run a 15, 20-minute match and not have to speak. And I think that Shawn and Taker were at that point in their careers where they could have gone another 10 minutes off the cuff and it would have made immediate sense along with everything else. It is one of the best matches that has ever been worked at a Mania, let alone in the industry. And it's engraved, burned into my brain forever.
Listen, we don't speak about Saudi Arabia, okay? It didn't happen. It was a fever dream.
I was high.
That was his last match.
I
was
had
at
done some
WrestleMania.
mushrooms and horse tranquilizers. I didn't know where I was. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
the way I hear it is what happens in Saudi Arabia stays in Saudi Arabia. So,
baby, listen, you
There you
about
go.
to learn.
That's
You
right,
about to
brother.
learn so much.
That's right, brother. But you're right, though. You're really right. Like in the sense of just these, I know we've talked about end of era tonight, like Shawn and Hunter and Triple H and stuff, and Taker. But this matchup, it's so damn good, and it's a great and just like kind of like almost paralleling like a couple years before how Shawn ended Flair's career. Now it's like the role reversal here a couple years later, where Taker is like, he's having to play the old Yeller moment, if you will. So yeah, you don't get a much better send off than what Shawn Michaels got at WrestleMania 26. So.
And nothing else happened ever again, ever.
That's
No.
right. Nothing else happened ever again.
So
he went on to NXT and did a phenomenal job, like, running that, and everything's
Exactly.
great.
I just thought of this that
And he still has his hair. Sorry.
yes, or he's at least shaving it. That whole weird. Anyway, so on Freebird Rules, we have a habit of talking about Saudi Arabia, and when we do, we specifically say that anything that happens in Saudi Arabia is non-canon. Didn't happen. It's not what's actually happening on the main timeline. The stuff that everybody knows and accepts.
It's
So-
into the WrestleMania verse.
Saudi Arabia is
Alternate
non-canon,
universe.
and it didn't happen.
It's like the Marvel, like, we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe with alternate universes. It's the same here.
That's right.
In that universe, the Saudi president did get his Yokozuna and Ultimate Warrior matchup that he so desperately wanted.
That's
That's really
Bald
what he
Sean,
wanted.
who is a that's Bald Sean, who is a completely different version of Shawn Michaels in a different timeline that we don't know about.
Yeah, we don't talk about Saudi Arabia. No. All right, Tyler. What is your number 2 moment?
My number 2 has been already talked about. It was the women main eventing WrestleMania for the first time. Just the grand entrance, Charlotte basically coming in the helicopter, which was
dope.
It was dope, and honestly, a lot of people didn't know that was actually to pay homage to Ric Flair.
Yep.
Back in '85, when he won. Did he win the NWA championship, or he was the NWA champion?
Yeah. Then on the Bash tours.
Yeah. And just the moments where they were all in the ring, I mean, just staring at each other. And I'm surprised none of them broke more than they did. I mean, it just is as emotional as it was, and just the moment it was. And at the end, when Becky won and she held those titles up above her head, and just Becky Two Belts was born, and I loved it. It was beautiful. And like Hambone, I consider myself a feminist, and I'm always hyping the women up and pushing women's wrestling because I love women's wrestling. Actually, I love women's wrestling a lot of times more than lots of men's matches, if you want to know the truth. But I just they own the moment, they deserve the moment, and it needs to keep happening more and more. So
yeah. And the cool thing is, I was having a conversation about this the other day, actually, with Dad Hat. Shout out to him. And we were talking about how, like, we actually, I host a show over on World Championship Wreckages called Fantasy Warfare, which, by the way, you can catch a new episode of Fantasy Warfare over there now. But we were talking, and he was booking his, like, woman's match for that show. And he was like, what's cool about this match? Is this match could still happen because we're still could get, like, hell, last year you got Trish and Lita both competed at WrestleMania. So some of the greats from that era still can compete, like, in this era too. And I think that's why this era, especially for women's wrestling, is so awesome right now too. And then you've got the next generation already, like Rhea living in her moment right now, and what Bianca's doing and stuff. It's a pretty cool time for women's wrestling, I think. And it's obviously it's just going to continue getting better and better. So, okay, Hambone, what is your number 2 WrestleMania moment?
So before I give my number 2, I just want to say that take Chrissy out of this, obviously, but I'm happy to be on a podcast with as a bunch of white men. People, all 3 of us put both Kofi Mania and the women's matches like in our top 10 because we can recognize what that means for other people, and especially like with the recent shit with like Bianca getting all this racism talk and everything online and stuff like that. It's nice to know that there are other people in this wrestling universe that don't deal with that shit. So,
and can I just
throwing
say,
that out
speaking from a women's perspective, thank you guys. It shouldn't be something that you guys should have to be thank you'd for, but knowing that there's people out there such as yourselves that I can have intelligent conversations with and not be belittled and not have to worry about things like, safety or other terrible aspects, like knowing that there's people with big brains and big hearts that legitimately understand that at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun and that we can
it's
all
supposed to be for
together.
everybody.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be for everybody. So from the bottom of my heart, for a little girl who was too poor to trade tapes, thank you for putting out the content that you do, speaking the way that you do on the wrestlers of color, on the women's divisions, and just being exactly who you are, all of you.
I think the really cool thing about it all is the fact that this is like professional wrestling we're talking about, and all these cool, amazing moments, and just like all the diversity. It's really cool to see, especially as longtime fans, to see where it was so many years ago and where we are now. And it's like truly going like in the right direction. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's pretty radical to see in this lifetime, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I lied to you earlier, Jay. I do have a Bret Hart moment because number 2 is Stone Cold and Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. Because,
Thank you.
well, I mean, it's
You
not
would
for
put it
him,
at number
I
2,
mean,
though,
we're,
you
we're
mark.
really talking about Stone Cold. The whole.
Oh well,
image.
come on! It's plain as day what his number 1 is. But anyways,
Shut up! Spoilers. Anyway,
You know what?
but yeah, I mean that is one of
number 2.
But yeah, I mean that image of him with the blood running down, obviously one of the most iconic images. I would go so far as to say probably the most iconic image in wrestling ever.
I agree.
But also again, that's one of those things where it's one of those moments for me where I went, oh shit, things are changing in wrestling. We're going towards a much different product than we were before. And I feel like you could make the argument that this is where the Attitude Era kicked off. I feel like there's a lot of moments where you could make that argument, and I feel like this is one of them. And again, that image of him with the blood running down, that's something that'll be burned in my brain forever.
1000% agree. And I will talk about that here in a moment. So spoiler alert. But for me at number 2, I am going to do something here because I was going back and forth on this, back and forth where to rank it and put it. And it's just like so hard. So, and I am the host of this show, one of the hosts on this show. So I'm cheating. I have a tie at number 2. So, because I could, both of these are such feel good.
That was an option.
I'm sorry. I couldn't like, how do you have one without the other? So for me, it's in my opinion, probably the 2 best feel good moments in WrestleMania history. I've got Yes-A-Mania and I've got the woman Becky 2 belts for me. Cause it's just like, both of them. I can see both of the images. They're both so similar, man, with Danielson raising both the belts up, and the confetti coming down, and Becky doing the same. I mean, it's just like, they're both like, you're teary-eyed thinking about it, man. You're boo to you, sir. Boo to you, sir.
That's right.
I'm talking about this emotional moment. Did dare heartbreak dude did. Anyways,
I know
John Marks have to ruin this.
And
no.
I know I'm the student, but wouldn't that make 14 on your list?
I mean, it must be nice to put yourself at the top of the card always.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, this is bullshit. This guy gets an honorable mention, and all of us had to stick to 13 when we had lists of 30.
Whatever you say, Dwayne.
I know. Hey, I yeah, that's right.
He also just joined TKO.
That's right. I know, and I thought about messaging you guys and that, but honestly, I was going back and forth on this today. Literally, I was just like,
this guy's on the board, so he thinks he can do whatever he wants,
Yeah. So
he's Matthew and Nicholas Jackson.
I yes, thank you. But I mean, they're both so good. So for me, it's a tie. Sorry, I cheated a little bit, but I don't care. I love you all. All right, here it is, the moment of truth. Number 1 WrestleMania moment of all time. Chrissy, what is your greatest WrestleMania moment?
Well, before I start, let me just say that I played fair and I didn't use white man colonizer privilege to do an extra slot in my list. I love playing by the rules because I'm a good girl. But yeah, when I was growing up in the Bronx, I didn't have a lot. So I was able to watch the pay-per-views by a legal cable box. And my brother would record everything on VHS tapes. So the very first pay-per-view I ever remember seeing was St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And going like, oh, like there's all these like superheroes in the ring, older brother. Like, do you have anything else I can watch? And he has this tape with a very, very well-built white man, long blonde hair, white and gold gear, on his knees, gripping a title on the cover. It doesn't say anything else because we bought it from the bootleg store because that's what you did. And I'm like, oh, what's this? And I literally found my love for wrestling that day. Having seen other pay-per-views and matches before, I liked it, but I didn't become viscerally interested the way that I am today until Shawn won Mania 12. beginning to end, from the entrance on the zip line to the boyhood dream comes true. Legitimately, that was my tagline when me and my best friend went to Mania, was that the childhood dream came true, because we never thought that we would ever be able to do that. And having that be the thing that not only jettisoned my adoration and love for wrestling, but also changed the kind of landscape for wrestling in general. Because Shawn, whether or not you agreed with how he handled things backstage or not, was who he was backstage. He commanded the attention that he did backstage, good or bad. And he managed to keep that momentum all the way through drug overdoses and rehab and finding the Lord and everything else. And he has gone through 1,000 different versions of himself, to the point where now he's able to help the younger generation find the 1,000 different versions of themselves. Johnny Gargano wouldn't exist if there wasn't Shawn Michaels. And I love and adore Johnny Gargano, probably for that same point, is that you will never realize just how much, and Hambone said it before, a lot of younger cats are saying that they're coming into the industry now because of people like Punk, people like, like a John Cena. Our generation started because of people like Shawn, the John Cenas, the Batistas, the Randy Ortons, anyone in that age bracket. You ask them who is in their Mount Rushmore, Shawn Michaels is always there. He's your favorite's favorite. I don't know what else to tell you. WWE literally did a list on the network, when it was still just network, of top 100 WWE superstars according to other WWE superstars, and Shawn was number one. I don't have to sell anything else. It's always going to be Shawn. And I love Bret. This was the match with Bret. This was the 60-minute Iron Man match, and Shawn would not. Superheroes don't work without their counterparts. Shawn and Bret are always fated to find each other in different timelines. That's just how it's going to be. But there is no us sitting here right now doing what we're doing if Shawn Michaels didn't exist. And that's why Shawn Michaels winning that title at 12 is my number one.
It's hard to argue those points. Yeah. And I mean, in my opinion, I think the Bret Shawn rivalry is the greatest rivalry of all time, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just transcends time, man. Like, and just the fact that they had that real life beef, and I'm glad that they were able to like become friends later on and get closure and stuff and talk about it. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's hard to argue that as the number one. So. All right, Tyler, what is your number one Mania moment?
Well, I kind of already told you all this earlier, and unlike Hambone, I did go negative in this, and it was the streak ending, because that moment literally just destroyed me and made me go like, what the heck just happened? No, that couldn't have happened. I mean, I was just so in shock. I mean, I was in shock. And I'm going to sidebar this, since we've talked that to death already. I had that feeling last year at WrestleMania when Cody lost, because I honestly was Team Cody.
Yeah.
And I did not think Cody was going to lose.
Yep.
And that was the closest I've got since that moment.
Yeah.
That I was
agree.
like, how the hell did this happen? Cody was supposed to win. Why didn't Cody win? I was pissed.
I think we're all Cody crybaby here.
Yeah, I was a Cody crybaby.
Yeah, I know. I think outside of the Undertaker streak being broken, Cody losing last year is the only time that I've legitimately been angry with wrestling.
Yeah,
like
angry.
I was distraught. I was disheveled. You can hear my dog Reggie in the background. He's still crying, thinking about the moment. But you know what? It's okay. We're gonna make up for it this year,
dude. I
hope so.
I'm jumping off of a building. Honestly, I can't do it again.
I'm still a little worried we're not.
I will resign for my position of TKO if it doesn't fucking happen this year. Okay.
It might be my breaking point when it comes to wrestling if it doesn't.
It's my 13th reason why.
Yeah. Oh shit!
I can't do it again. I can't do it again.
Yeah. Anyways,
that took a dark turn. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. So, Hambone, would you like to elaborate on why you're number one? We know what your number one
You already know
Go
that
ahead,
it's
buddy.
WrestleMania 12, the boyhood dream. Listen, I was how old was I? I was 9 years old. I've only been watching wrestling for 3 years, but Shawn Michaels was my guy. I mean, he is the reason that I love pro wrestling. I have him tattooed on me. Like, and especially like the whole boyhood dream thing. I got to meet Shawn last year, and I'm going to add to my tattoo, and I'm going to put the date on there and put boyhood dream on there because it was one of my boyhood dreams to meet him, and I got to do it. Wrestling is the only thing, and this is going to sound stupid to people, but it's whatever. Wrestling is like the only thing that I have a real passion for in life. Like, it's such an important thing to me, and that's all because of him. So that moment meant so much to me to finally see him become world champion. He was my guy at the time and all that. So that moment, if I'm going back to one moment that like solidified how much wrestling would mean to me in my life, it's that one. So there's nothing else is even a close second to it for me. So you already know it's the boyhood dream, WrestleMania 12.
It's arguably the greatest call in WrestleMania history. That's one of the most iconic lines, not only in WrestleMania history and professional wrestling history, man. Just the way the boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels, and just it's like you said, Chrissy, just him grasping that belt and just looking down on it, and just like finally that moment of like he's been busting his ass for so hard for so long. So it's hard to argue.
And then he told Brett to get the fuck out of the ring, and I mean valid. Valid.
And that,
honestly, same.
that I wasn't cool with, but that's okay. It is what it is, right? So for my number one moment, in my opinion, we've kind of already talked about it, but I truly think this is the defining moment, the definitive moment. If you had to nail it down, when everybody who talks so fondly of the Attitude Era, this is the moment where it's like, okay, this is where it truly begins. It's WrestleMania 13. It's Austin versus Brett. It's the switch. Because it's just like, it's, Brett going into that as the baby face, and Austin are going into it as this, literally the stone cold heel, like this bad guy, and then just how that match, because here's the other thing too, going into that match, I mean, it was like, really, it was kind of like, if you think about it, the whole Austin Brett storyline was kind of like, it wasn't as hot as it was in the beginning, in all honesty. And boy, oh boy, did they turn it around in this one, because at the time too, it was all like Brett was still so involved with like the world title, and Brett's getting screwed over, blah blah blah. And then just, the crowd already was starting to kind of just be like, you know what? As much as we love Brett, I'm kind of a little fed up with him at this point. And then Austin, just this badass who will not give up, will not submit. I mean, he's got the blood flowing. It's like you all said, that it's coming down his face. It's just one of the most insane. Like, it's embedded into my mind forever. Like that Austin just bleeding and the blood going down into his teeth, for God's sakes, and he's just in utter agony. And then Ken Shamrock yelling at him, "Do you give up? Do you submit?" And then Austin, he didn't give up. No, he passed out. And then just like Brett afterwards just attacking him, and I was just like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, even though it was like plain as day, like, we saw a sign of things to come, with Brett. But I was just like, I was shocked, but I was also like, so like, holy shit, like Steve Austin is a bad mamma jamma, man. So and then just from there, where we go and launching Stone Cold, and you get DX, and then we go to 14 and the Austin era beginning there, and then The Rock, and so much more. So for me, it's always going to be the Bret Austin switch at WrestleMania 13. And kind of like you were saying earlier, Hambone, with 17, it holds a special place in my heart because 13 was the first one I ever watched live as a kid. So this was like my first WrestleMania I got to witness like on pay-per-view as it happened. And it's just so insane that like I got to see that moment. And it's funny because at the time as a kid, like I knew I was seeing something, but I didn't know it would be this moment that would be forever ingrained in the WWE. So Well, somehow we amazingly got through all of these incredible moments tonight. I mean, it's so great looking back, but there's going to be so many great moments ahead, and we're merely a couple weeks away. What's already been dubbed as it's going to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time. I sure hope it lives up to the hype, because it's got a lot to live up to, because there's been so many great moments like we've talked about here tonight. In closing, I got to ask you all, like, do you think we're going to get some of those moments this year at WrestleMania? Like, hope and pray we get those. I know a certain moment we're all like hoping we finally fucking get. But I mean, just how excited are you for Mania? Oh shit.
I'm really excited for Mania. One of my underestimated moments of either night, I'm not sure when the match is going to land, but Bayley versus Io.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's been an underground rumbling for Bayley and Io since the Rumble happened. The blatant disrespect that Bayley and Io have both gotten in terms of promotional material for their Mania match is absolutely abhorrent. And I really feel like it's going to be the underdog match of the weekend just from crowd support.
Yeah.
Very similar to how no one expected the Puerto Rico crowd to pop for Io the way that they did at Backlash. But she was the face in that match versus Bianca. I really feel like there's going to be a very similar support for those two women during their match. Because Io's worked the world over. Are you kidding me? It's Io Shirai. Like, what? I don't have to explain to y'all why she is who she is and why she's as good as she is. And then Bayley has been this workhorse from NXT all the way to now, to the point where she's not only respected by her peers, but also by the suits and the higher ups. So now's the time to pull the trigger on Bayley the way that it should have been pulled on her years ago. You have to take advantage of the fire when it's hot, and it's never been hotter for Bayley. Not only because of how talented she is, but other people are finally realizing how talented she is at the same time.
It's kind of funny because that's kind of Bayley's thing, though, because she was the last horsewoman called up from NXT. She was always the one that was kind of left behind, always the one set aside, and now she's getting her moment.
And you already know what I'm going to say about that, Jay, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we've talked about this several times before. Like,
don't care what anybody says. Bayley's the best of the four horsewomen.
She is.
Hands down.
Absolutely. Becky and Bayley switch 1 and 2. Becky and Bayley and Charlotte switch 1 and 2 spots. Sasha's at the bottom for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Else? Okay, cool. I can come back here. I like
and
it.
You know think of how amazing that statement is, because literally last night, Mercedes single-handedly sold out the TD Garden. And
Absolutely.
That crowd's reaction for when she came out, and it was like, the best kept secret, kind of like when Punk came out the United Center, like that. It's.
I think it was even worse kept than that.
yeah. I mean,
no doubt about it. She was tweeting Boston. She was putting pictures in the back of the locker room. I mean, it was crazy how bad it was.
Like it just is, like you said. It's just when there's so much immense talent, someone has to fall to the bottom of the list. That doesn't mean that she's not good. It's just in comparison to the others, Bayley has everything. She has the in-ring work. She has the promo ability. She has the ability to be able to switch her characteristics to be a really good face or a really good heel or a tweener. She can do the stupid little vignettes. She can do the really serious moments. And not everyone in the four horsewomen can pull off all those aspects as seamlessly as Bayley does. Because I love Becky Lynch, but when she goes into like those Dr. Seussian like raps that she does on NXT, I'm not a fan. When we're 15 words in and every other word rhymes, I'm concerned. Like, no.
Charlotte gets her cadence too, and it's like, okay,
I hate it.
I've heard it. Yeah,
Charlotte sounds like she's talking with a cork in her mouth underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me because
it doesn't feel as natural with all of them as it does with Bayley.
Yeah.
But it's like what Hambone said. Bayley, and not saying that they all weren't fans, like Charlotte's freaking Ric Flair's daughter, for Christ's sake, but Bayley, her original character was fangirl. That was the Bayley Buddies gimmick. She was like the stalkerish fangirl that would go to all the conventions, when in reality, that's who she was. in her little documentaries that they have on the network. It's all pictures of her with the Hardy Boys, with Punk, with Cena when she was a kid, because she's us. She's us with people supporting her. She's us with our parents not telling us it's a stupid idea to become a wrestler. She's what we would have been if all the cylinders would have fired at the same time. And that's why I want to see her succeed, because if she succeeds, I do.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be that's one of the ones I think that is definitely I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's the best story going into Mania, honestly. As much as I love like Cody's story, but I mean that's been going on for years, you know. So but yeah, it's gonna be an awesome WrestleMania. And Hambone, you and I, buddy, we are so blessed that we get to be there live and in color. We're both gonna bust our WrestleMania cherries and frigidity and finally get to Mania so many years later. So I can't wait. Cannot wait. So, well, as we close out tonight, we want to thank you all for joining us on this episode of Learning Ropes. And as we always do, we got to close out with a little Plug-a-Palooza. So as I mentioned earlier, you can catch replays of back at it again. You can catch replays of I'm Your Huckleberry as well as Pro Wrestling 60, and now you can. There we go, Pro Wrestling Tees. Yeah, because of Pro Wrestling Tees. God, you're making me jump all over the place with these damn graphics. How dare you? Anyways, you can catch replays of that, and then next week next week you can catch a brand new episode of Coldcast as well, where we break down WrestleMania's greatest matches. So. They'll be coming to you next Tuesday. You're getting ridiculous with these graphics, buddy. And Lutrum Foot Spray. Thank God Lutrum Foot Spray got the call in here. If you watch Friday Night
Movie Night, we have a lot of sponsors.
Yes. And Lutrum's our greatest. And also, as we mentioned, as you saw there, the Pro Wrestling Tees logo, you can get some of our merch, our Cole TV merch over on ProWrestlingTees.com. And don't forget, we will be coming live from Indianapolis on March the 30th for our very special Learning the Ropes, noon Eastern time. We're going to have interviews with Effie, Allie, Cole Radrick, and a lot of other surprises planned for that. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. And also, if you're in the Indianapolis area, come check us out at Squared Circle Expo. We're going to be there with Ruby Ringside. We've got a booth. You can come meet Effie or Allie or Cole Radrick, us. It's going to be an awesome time. Yeah, and that'll be coming here in the here on Cole TV. We got so much amazing stuff lined up for you. You're not going to want to miss it. And Hambone, I'm going to come over to you, good sir. Give us a little plug, a Palooza. Tell us where we can find you, brother.
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Hambone with 3 A's and 3 O's. You can find me on X at Notorious_Bone. You can find me on Pokemon Go if you want. I need more friends, so send me your thing, on one of those
Pokemon Go up,
platforms,
B-roll.
and we can be friends. And you can also find me every Sunday on Twitch and YouTube on my podcast, Freebird Rules, that I do with my co-hosts, Con from the 703 and It's Just Nick. Go follow both of them on social media. We are balls deep in March Madrip, our bracket that we do every March, where we take all the best looks of the past year and we put them head to head until we figure out what the best look of the past year was. So come do that. Come watch us. That's about it.
Do it. And just an update. We did finish the story. We are now friends on Pokemon Go. Just to update the viewers.
We did.
Nice.
I still need 2 more people to complete some field research, though. So get on there.
Get on there now. Do it.
I know somebody who said he was going to start playing.
Yeah, he told me that 2 months ago, too, and nothing happened. So
I have so much going on with Cole TV, the job,
He has dogs, y'all.
Oh, yeah, I got my kids. I got my babies.
He's sitting on the board of learning.
I'm on the board.
He's got a lot going on. He's a very important person.
I'm a busy guy, but I will make a point to get on the Pokemon Go. Just saying. All right, Tyler, my friend, tell us where we can find you, brother.
You can find me YouTube, Twitch. I haven't put anything on Twitch yet, but I'm going to start going on Twitch. Instagram, all under Tyler Wrestles, no space. If you like TikTok, which supposedly it's going to be around for a while, hopefully we'll find out, but it's Tyler.Wrestles because some high school kid has the no space one, but
sure.
I need to find him and steal it from him. But yeah, pretty much on there making content, talking about popular subjects. I am going to Pro Wrestling Revolver this weekend, so I'll have a lot of stuff from that next week. Probably won't be able to talk for a few days because I'll lose my voice. But yeah, that's what I got going on.
Hell yeah, man. And Chrissy, please tell us where all of our viewers, where they can find you.
Well, babies, my name is Chrissy Tina. Y'all can find me on TikTok at Chrissy Tina, Chrissy_Tina, where I do TikTok lives on Saturdays, NXT Rewinds, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I have a guest that picks their favorite NXT takeover, and we watch it and we reminisce because the only mommy issues I want to have are Rhea Ripley based. And I also have a wonderful podcast with my platonic soulmate, James. We are Wrestling with Friends, where we go over the previous week's nonsense going into the new week's hoopla, because at the end of the day, wrestling is a series, a soap opera, a telenovela that never ends, but wrestling is always better with friends.
Hell yeah, it is. And may I say, your new merch is pretty sick as well. That new shirt.
Thank you. I like y'all, and y'all have some pull with me, so I might be able to get y'all some free merch at the end.
Yes,
I might need Drip God to actually judge my merch.
I knew being on TKO would pay off on the board. Hell yes. Hell yeah. Well, folks, we want to thank you so much joining us tonight. This super long episode of Learning the Ropes. But hey, we're talking WrestleMania moments, so you knew it was going to go long. So, nonetheless, we thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And once again, thank you to Hambone, Tyler, and Chrissy for joining us here tonight.
And thank you to our sponsors who have no clue who we are or what we do.
What?
Please don't sue us.
No, don't do that.
They are all
slide into
in
my
a
DMs
bidding
and-
war to sponsor the show. Even they don't know about it, but they are all in a bidding war to sponsor the show.
I'm not gonna lie, my phone has been blowing up.
Logan, it's Logan. That's who it is.
Oh yeah. Logan's like, yeah, this is good stuff, pal. I'm like, you know what? This is pretty good stuff too. Kudos to you, sir.
Listen, it's
so next week,
it's
just like
when I pay for it. When you pay me, it's delicious.
It's the best fucking thing going. This stuff is manna from God itself. I'm telling you, this is the nectar of the gods.
Next week, just like the wrestling rings, we're gonna see the Prime logo in the background of Learning the Ropes.
You're not wrong. Well, thank you again, everybody, and everybody have a wonderful night and enjoy this road to WrestleMania. And don't forget, next time we'll see you on Learning the Ropes, we'll be live March 30th, noon at the Squared Circle Expo. We will see you then. Everybody have a wonderful night. Bye.